Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Donald Trump threatens to sue the BBC for $1 billion.
The US president is demanding the BBC makes a full and fair retraction over what he's calling false, defamatory, disparaging, misleading and inflammatory statements.
Well, the BBC chairman, Samir Shah, has issued a public apology after the broadcaster admitted to editing a Donald Trump speech in a way that could be seen as misleading.
But is this enough to repair the reputation of our national broadcaster? And has it ruined relations with the White House?
Well, it comes as the Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy is understood to be planning to launch her consultation on the BBC's Royal Charter before Christmas, with considerations of wholesale reform of the licence fee.
Chancellor Rachel Reeves hints at scrapping the two-child benefit cap with the budget just weeks away.
Former heads of the British Army have accused the Prime Minister of allowing human rights law to undermine the effectiveness of Britain's armed forces.
And the nation will fall silent later this morning to mark Armistice Day, honouring the moment peace was declared in 1918 at the end of the First World War on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month with a 2-minute silence. And of course, GB News will be across the UK where commemorations are taking place.
And to support this morning, the International Olympic Committee is set to announce a ban on transgender women in competition. Middlesbrough manager Rob Edwards, not really Middlesbrough manager for much longer. He's going to be announced as the new boss of Wolves. And is this the snowiest cup final ever?
Yet more rain on the way through today and the next few days. Not everywhere will be soaking, though. Find out the full details in the forecast very soon.
Good morning, it's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Ellie Costello.
And I'm Christopher Hope, and this is, of course, GB News Breakfast.
We're talking about theory tests in the studio this morning, and I just said to Christopher Hope, did you have a theory test?
I didn't. I passed my driving test in the last century, you see, Ellie.
So you just have to do a practical and then you're ready to go?
Yes, a practical. And in fact, if you look, I haven't got my wallet with me, but on the back of my driving licence, I can drive anything up to and including a bus with a trailer.
Really?
But if you look at the
I've
back...
never seen a bus with a trailer.
Well, it's a big one.
Oh, right.
Or I can buy a double lorry, a 7.5-tonner with a trailer. Because if you look at the back of your permissions, all the classes you can drive, when I passed my test, you basically passed the driving test, and that was it. You just drove anything you like.
Wow.
Really?
Are you the same?
I didn't even know, but maybe
you
it
need
is.
to take your driving licence.
We'll get our driving licence. Have you use yours with
I'll have mine in my handbag.
Well,
I can fish it out for you.
Look at the back of what you can drive.
I don't think... I think it's probably...
Mine's so old I can drive a horse with a carriage through London. What year was your driving test?
1988 I passed.
I was 84. 1984.
But, however, it's not good news, though, for those taking...
Yes, the reason I'm asking is because this... I don't know whether it's a woman or a man. But anyway, this learner driver, has taken 75 theory tests, because now, of course, you have to do a theory test before you do a practical.
Is that difficult?
Do you know what? I loved it. So there's like a hazard perception, so you're put in like a simulator, I guess you describe it as, and you're driving along the road in the simulator, and then you have to hit your button when a hazard is there. So I loved it. So I was whacking my button, and I passed first time.
Is that how you
Very
drive?
nice.
Yeah.
What are you hitting?
They were probably terrified of you, is probably right, the way you're hitting the button.
Perceptive of hazards.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think a lot of people do find it quite hard. It's just general knowledge on the highway code.
Well, the bit because, you know, I said I did had to do the speed awareness course.
Oh, yeah. I found that quite fun as well.
Well, it was until... I think I told you that there was when you have they show the little video, and then you have to work out what the problem is, or...
This is it.
And I got it...
Test.
And when I did it, and you hold up the A, B or C, and I held up, and they said... And the woman goes, Paul, can I just say that you are the only person in 25 years of me doing this who have actually said C. And I said, is that good? And she went, no. It's completely... So I ended up having to copy someone else. So they said, like, do this. So I don't think I'm going to have much luck with it.
So, Ellie, what is the stopping distance at 30 miles an hour in a built-up area?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what is it?
20-something.
It is
20 years.
metres, 75 feet.
75
you got away with
feet.
that because you didn't declare imperial or metric.
I didn't, no. But
Chris, all you had to do was just look at a sign in a book, wasn't it?
I just Googled it. It's fine for me. Can I ask one question of the DVLA? My son is trying to take his driving test. He's been waiting months and months and months and can't get a test. Pull your finger out, DVLA, or it's called the DVSA nowadays. But it's outrageous, the wait for these poor young people or old people to get their...
People are driving, going miles away. I know my daughter had it. Yeah, some people are going 100 miles to go and take it in some other town.
My daughter drove to Weston-super-Mare from where we live in Hertfordshire.
Lovely part of the world, though.
Nothing wrong with Weston-super-Mare, lovely roads. But to drive there, you don't even know the roads to do a driving test. It's ridiculous.
Do we know why? I know it's happening during lockdown, but I don't know.
I think it's a hangover from lockdown, but
Still.
it's a total disgrace by the government.
It certainly is. Well,
There we
anyway,
are, rant over.
Get in touch. Anything you'd like to say about theory tests or driving tests? Oh, and by the way, that wasn't the that wasn't the record in terms of theory tests. So this is 75 tests that this person's taken. The record is actually 128 times without success at a cost of almost £3,000.
Do you think when they failed 74 tests, they thought, I can do it in 75? I mean, at what point do you say, I'm just going to get a bike?
And when they pass their test, would you go, yeah, I'll have a lift with you, thanks? Actually, no, I'm good.
Never.
Right.
Anyway, get in touch with us this morning. Now, it's our top story, and Donald Trump has threatened to sue the BBC for $1 billion. It's over the editing of his speech in a Panorama documentary.
That's right. His legal team is accusing the corporation of defaming the US president and has demanded a retraction, giving the broadcaster until Friday evening to respond.
Well, last night on The Late Show Live, GB News' Ben Leo has an exclusive interview with the lawyer representing President Trump.
The president is extremely frustrated, yet adamant in his belief that he is going to hold accountable those that engage in and peddle in false information and untruthful statements. And so he's upset about it for his own benefit and really for the community as a whole, given the fact that institutions such as the BBC have the ability and the free rein to engage in such defamatory conduct.
Now, US political commentator Paul Duddridge joins us now. Paul Duddridge, is this a stunt, or will we really see the US president going to war in court with our national broadcaster?
It's definitely not a stunt. Look what he's done to CBS, ABC, Meta, are they called, and YouTube. He's gotten like 25 million, 24 million, 15 million, 16 from all of them. No, he follows through with these threats. You remember with Theresa May, when she had her first meeting with Trump, and she was saying problems she was having with the EU, and she just said, sue, just sue. He does believe in litigation. This will go all the way unless there is a grovelling apology from the BBC. You're all going to be paying 30 quid extra, the Trump tax on your BBC licence next year. That's what's going to happen.
Well, I was about to say the difference between the lawsuits in the US and the lawsuit that we're potentially talking about here with the BBC is that it's funded by the licence fee payers. So it would be us, effectively, that would be paying this.
Oh, yeah, because of the unique way the BBC is funded, you're coughing up for their mess-ups whilst everybody else goes on to a cushy job, probably taking over the New York Times or something. That's the usual thing, isn't it? But every director general, so many director generals end in this ignominy. What was it? We had it with Greg Dyke with the sexed up dossier, the Hutton inquiry. We had George Entwistle with Savile. It's extraordinary. This is the way that they all go. But I just love the fact that Trump is not only taking care of the United States so beautifully, he's also cleaning house in the UK, doing very, very necessary work. I think it's remarkable to witness.
It's not great, though, is it, to have the US president suing our national broadcaster? At some point, you know, there's got to be a reckoning there. Is it based on a legal issue here in the sense that was this documentary broadcast in America, do you know? Or is it some kind of damage caused just because it was broadcast in the UK? Because he's going to sue in the Florida court, isn't he?
Yeah, listen, I think I'm not 100% on this, but because of BBC America and so much material actually gets shared here, then I think that you will find that it probably made its way over here or was available and accessible on the net. You know, I do remember, this is very, very, very niche, but the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, that happened in Virginia because that was where the server where these documents were held was. So it could very well be that there is a BBC America server, something like that. But also, look, if the BBC escalates this, because of the date that went out, this can actually be labelled as interfering in a foreign election as well as just defamatory. So it would be very wise, I think, for the BBC to be very contrite and very humble and to beg forgiveness, because this can really have huge repercussions. He is not given to backing down from lawsuits, Trump, especially when you have something as egregious as this. Look, the minute I was midweek being, you know, all cocky, going like, I don't think Tim Davy's going to resign. simply because I thought that if he does resign, that is the beginning of a lawsuit. It's like, well, if there is no problem, why would the Director General resign? So the very fact that this has now happened means that any court would look at it and go, well, it probably is, there's reasonable cause for a lawsuit.
So how do you think the BBC is going to respond, if you can predict that, Paul? They've got until 5 p.m. on Friday. So do you think there will be a personal apology to President Trump? We saw that statement, didn't we, yesterday from the chairman of the BBC, a general apology for the doctoring of that clip by President Trump in the documentary. We can see it on our screens now, but not a personal apology. So do you think they'll go that one step further and then potentially retract the documentary in its entirety?
They're definitely going to retract the documentary. I think that they'll probably, again, there's so much hubris still at the BBC. I think what will happen is a grovelling apology, because the personnel that actually, with whom the buck has stopped, have left the organisation. I think there now can be a huge act of contrition. I'm surprised that Keir Starmer's coming out backing the BBC. I thought this was a good opportunity for him to start the grovelling. It was interesting what Nigel Farage said, actually, that in his conversation with Trump. Trump had said, like, this is how you treat an ally. And that's not a personality. That is another nation. So I do think that it could be Lisa Nandy, it could be Keir Starmer eventually having to bend the knee rather and be contrite. But yes, I think that they're going to have to be grovelling. I think the whole thing will probably go away with nominal funds, probably in the 20-30 million region, paid into a charity. This is the usual strategy of Trump. But this is very real. And as I've said, about the particular case that Trump has flagged up, or his administration has flagged up, I believe, is interfering in a foreign election.
OK, well, thanks, James Dudridge, for that analysis there of this extraordinary legal battle in prospect.
Well, the chairman of the BBC, Shamir Shah, said this yesterday. Since the publication of Mr Prescott's memo, this issue has led to over 500 complaints. These are now being dealt with in the normal way. It has also prompted further reflection by the BBC.
The conclusion of that deliberation is that we accept that the way the speech was edited did give the impression of a direct call for violent action. The BBC would like to apologise for that error of judgment.
Now, according to The Telegraph, the BBC is set to confront challenges regarding the TV licence fee in the coming weeks as ministers initiate a fundamental review of the broadcaster following allegations of bias.
The Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, is reportedly preparing to begin her consultation on the BBC's Royal Charter before Christmas.
Well, former political advisor James Price joins us now. What do you make of this, James, in terms of timing?
Morning. Well, it couldn't be any worse for the BBC, could it? And I'd say that the heart bleeds for it, but it's brought it all upon itself. In full declaration of interest, Mike Prescott, the person who's written this bombshell memo, used to be my boss a long time ago, and he's a man of complete moral rectitude, and so I think everything in that report must be as true as could be. And I think, as they always say, it's not the lie, it's the cover-up, from Watergate to everything else. And the accusations in this memo are bad enough. The fact is that it went to the very highest and the senior bods up at the BBC. I think it went to the board or the trustees or whatever they're called. They looked at it and they told the Director General, yeah, just ignore all this stuff. Don't worry about it. There's no point in worrying about it. It'll all be fine. And not only is that, I think, morally absurd, it's also been a terrible piece of judgment, because you've got the most powerful man in the world threatening to sue in the most Austin Powers way at $1 billion.
It's unbelievable more care wasn't taken. If you're going to take on Donald Trump, you get your facts right and you treble check it in triplicate. That's what I would do.
As we were saying yesterday, it was such an easy fix, wasn't it, James? I mean, in print, you'd put 3 dots there to indicate that this was a difference in timing.
In broadcasting, you do
in broadcast, you do a white flash just to indicate that an edit had been made.
Very simple.
So simple to fix.
Right. And the fact that they didn't do that shows, I think, a level of mendacity, that they were deliberately, obviously, trying to make this guy seem worse than he actually has been. And the fact that they have gone after the most powerful person in the world and thinking they could get away with it, well, it makes everybody at home, or it should make everybody at home, question, what are they doing to everybody else? What are they doing when I go on the BBC? Are they wanting me to say evil things?
Well, what do you make of this idea of a coup? I mean, even the author of this, of the memo, which I still was reading again last night, marking up, Michael Prescott, he says in it that he's never been a member of any political party, doesn't hold hard and fast views on matters like American politics or disputes in the Middle East. But you've got the BBC yesterday, and I did listen to a lot of this when I went home, Ellie, about they're calling it a coup on the BBC. They're saying there's a coup by the Tory right against the left. I mean, Tim Stanley in the Telegraph today says that Nick Robinson should don a tin-foil hat to shield him from the oncoming storm. So people like Nick Robinson on the Today programme are being mocked for raising this issue of a right-wing conspiracy or coup or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think that's right. You know, I tried to flick on briefly to the Today programme yesterday, and you just get someone going on and saying, oh, yeah, this is all the evil, right-wing, fascist, blah, blah, blah. The same old kind of nonsense that you used to see on Twitter before it was the kind of the hackles were released off that and free speech came back on that platform. It is absolutely bonkers if you've been caught out red-handed of it's not just this Trump issue, by the way, of doing this, but all sorts of other things as well, where they've lied about the state of Israel and activities that it's done, all sorts of things. And the Telegraph, in that great way, has drip-fed it out over the week from this memo, and everybody should go and have a look at it. You've been caught red-handed. What do you want to do if you are serious about showing people that you are to be trusted? You say, yep, fair enough, we've got it wrong. They haven't done that.
So, having worked at the Telegraph for 20 years, the reason why they kept writing it was because the BBC hadn't responded.
Right.
So there were 7 days of stories because the BBC didn't respond.
And it's that paralysis that was so damaging.
Yeah, absolutely
not saying anything last week.
And you asked about the timing of this. I think there's some serious questions about the BBC that now need to be asked. Is it fit for purpose? I started losing my faith in the BBC when they paid, the taxpayers, licence fee payers money for a show called Can Fat Teens Hunt, as if that was kind of essential broadcasting.
Say that again, Can Fat
Teens Hunt, let alone all the other kind of nonsense. Turns out not very well.
James Price, we'll see you in the next hour. Thank you very much.
OK, it's now time for our daily reflection.
The GB News Daily Reflection.
Hi, I'm Chris Tufnell, a vicar in the Church of England. In one of the books in the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis, the girl Lucy reads a story, and she says to herself, "This is the most beautiful story I have ever heard or will hear in my whole life." But as soon as she finishes reading, she can't remember it, as hard as she tries. It's like trying to remember a dream. The harder you chase it, the further it gets away. And for the rest of her life, whenever she hears a good story, she says, "I know that's a good story, because it reminds me of the story I can never quite remember." On Remembrance Day, we often hear stories of the love and sacrifice of those who laid down their lives to save others. We know very deeply that those are good stories. And I believe that's because they remind us of the story we can never quite remember. The story our culture has all but forgotten. The ultimate story of love and sacrifice triumphing over evil. The story of Jesus Christ going from the glory of heaven to the shame of a Roman cross, and doing that in love, to save all people who would put their trust in him. The Bible says this is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us.
Now at 19 minutes past 6, let's get a check on the weather with Aidan.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Yet more windy and wet weather is expected today, particularly across western parts of the UK. The hills of southwest England, South Wales, southwest Scotland and Northern Ireland seeing quite a soaking as spells of rain push north and east across the UK. Briefly drier across the southern third, although staying cloudy and in some places with further spots of rain. But the strong wind coming in from the southwest will send another band of persistent wet weather into South Wales and the southwest of England by the afternoon. Driest and clearest in the far north of Scotland, 10 degrees here, elsewhere mid-teens. So despite the wet and windy weather, it is actually very mild for the time of year. Now, across northern Scotland, well, that's the place to be because we're going to end the day with clear spells, 1 or 2 showers, but otherwise mostly dry weather. As this spell of rain moves through central Scotland, another bout of wet weather pushing through Northern Ireland into the southwest of Scotland, reaching the central belt around 6 or 7 p.m. And then this wet weather moving through western England and Wales, a very soggy end of the day for Cardiff, for Exeter, and then that sweeps through the Midlands into eastern England through the evening, although fizzling out, so not much rain really for the southeast. A very mild night for the vast majority with that strong wind and areas of cloud in the south. Temperatures staying up at 14 or 15 Celsius, single figures further north, and having seen a dry day in northern Scotland on Tuesday, we're going to see spells of rain through Wednesday and a strong wind developing, but this wind is coming from the north, so it's going to turn colder through the day across Shetland and then eventually the north of the mainland as well as Orkney. Some of that rain turning to snow over the tops of the mountains, for example. A clear slot in the middle across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, northern England, but further wet weather in the south where it's going to be very mild once again.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Still to come, the snowiest football match ever. That's next. This is, of course, GB News Breakfast with Ellie Costello and me, Christopher Hope.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Well, it's time to go through all the sports news with Paul Coit. He's here with us. Hello, Paul.
Hello. You know what? It's a bit of a quiet week. I've got to tell you, international break and all that stuff.
Around, we'll find
so that's
stuff
it.
to talk about.
I got nothing.
Have you got birthdays for later?
You know what? It's even a bad day for birthdays.
We can do yesterday's ones.
Okay, oh, yeah, we did lose some, didn't we? We did lose some. Wolverhampton Wanderers look like they're going to appoint Rob Edwards. In fact, it's definite. It's just a matter of when. On a 3.5-year contract, because Wolves are having a horrible time at the moment.
Yes.
And basically, Rob Edwards is the manager. There he is.
Oh, he's quite young.
He is young. What is it, mid-30s? He's the manager at Middlesbrough.
That's young.
He's rather a good guy. So we go and watch Luton quite a lot. And
yes.
he, of course, took the team up to the Premier League.
He did indeed. And then he took them down again. He was like the Grand Old Duke of York, wasn't he? Is what he was.
He's been around a bit, isn't he?
He has.
But he's good. I think he's a good manager.
So you think it's a good move for Wolves?
Yes. I mean...
See, Wolves... Yeah. He played for Wolves... and played over 100 times for Wolves, and he was an interim manager at Wolves as well. But he's at Middlesbrough, so he went to Middlesbrough in June, and it's going extremely well there. So he's second in the Championship, and there was rumours about Wolves. How do you feel about that? And he sort of pretty much poo-pooed it, and it was like, by the way, it's the first time I've ever used that phrase.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I felt about that.
Yeah, OK, fair enough, I won't use that.
He joined there in June this year, Middlesbrough, on a 3-year contract.
Did he?
Now he's off.
That's right.
Well, he's in demand, clearly.
That's what I'm here to tell you. That's what I'm here to do.
Yeah, but it's surprising. He's got
a job, I think.
I know.
No, but he's got to survive this dance. He can just do the job for at least 2 years, then move on, Dave.
Well... The thing is, but what do you do? So let's say Wolves are in the Premier League, but they're doing horrendously at the moment. There's a link with Wolves, and there'll be a few quid, you know, 3.5-year contract being offered. Do you leave Middlesbrough, who are second in the Championship and stand a very good chance of going up?
Get all the glory.
Exactly. Or do you just go to Wolves, and there's a chance that if you can't turn it around, you end up going back to the Championship again. So what do you do?
I don't know. What do you do?
I don't know.
It's the big league.
It's a big league.
Stick or twist.
That's it. And that's pretty much it. So he's going. But it's just a matter of now waiting. We're dotting the I's and crossing the T's and doing all that. And because Middlesbrough then played without him at the weekend, so it's going to happen.
And these managers, sometimes they're hot and then they're not, aren't they?
Correct.
Because there were some who just younger, similar age managers who just can't get a break. I mean, he's now in demand, isn't he?
It's the managerial merry-go-round that we always talk about.
Very good.
So there's new people that are on there. He's now riding the merry-go-round, and then there's older managers that are now away from the fairground. So then he'll be there for a while, and then if it doesn't work out, he'll disappear. And Wayne Rooney, for example, he was on the merry-go-round.
Oh, he was.
Off he goes. Where's he going to go now?
And he's British, though, which is good. So
absolutely.
More young British, I think the best young British manager in today's game is Newcastle, would you say?
Yeah, Eddie Howe. Yeah, I think you're probably right, because there's not enough. Now, I better talk about the IOC.
Yes.
Now, the International Olympic Committee moved a step closer to introducing a blanket ban on transgender women in female categories across the sport. Now, there is a turn towards the bans now, because it really is. I mean, it's a matter, is it fair or isn't it? And I'd say it's as simple as that. There's all the grey area. Now, the IOC president, Kirsty Coventry, came in during the summer, and she said, because she's an Olympic gold medalist anyway, vowed to bring in the ban as part of her election campaign to protect women's sport. Now, it's a science-based review, which surely it's got to be, with athletes born male retain physiological advantages even after reducing testosterone levels. It's a matter of fairness. So is it fair or isn't it? There's so many people that we go, oh, well, they can do whatever anybody can do whatever they want. They should be able to compete. If they're a woman, they should be able to. But is it fair then to women athletes? And I personally think the answer is no. It's not fair.
Yes, that's where it's gone. I think that's what we saw with the ruling the Supreme Court went towards that. And I think that's where people think, you know, if you're born male, you do have an advantage.
It gets into situations where it's women that have undergone male, or women got under male puberty. Yeah. If they compete in the elite female competition, it's not only fair, is it safe? Because we saw that with the boxing in the Olympics as well. So anyway, this is likely that this is going to come in for the Winter Olympics in February.
And only where being a physical strength is an advantage. So maybe shooting, or maybe.
See, I agree. This is
areas where it's not an advantage to be. I
agree with that, Christopher. And this is something that we don't hear a lot of. It's always going to be a physical advantage. When there's something that isn't physical, Does that make a difference? You know, we've seen it in darts, whereas transgender women have been banned from darts. Does that make a difference?
That's ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, there we are. And this is why the whole argument is so difficult. But that's where we are at the moment.
Try and take the politics out of it and make it fair.
I think that's the answer. I think that's what everybody needs to do.
Aim,
but there's always going to be politics involved.
Can we look at this snow globe spectacle?
Yes, before we see it.
Yes.
Atletico Ottawa. Against Cavalry FC to win the Canadian Premier League, and it goes to extra time, but the temperatures, it was a little cold. Have a look at this, -8 degrees.
Oh.
Play was, now that just looks like a bit of snow.
See,
it gets worse as we go along.
It's a blizzard.
It really is a blizzard, and it's like watching the old football days with the Red Bull, when you'd see that. You don't seem to see it these days, but because these days you don't see it over here because they have the undersoil heating, they clear the snow, they'll ban it, it just won't happen. But there, it looks okay. You know what? It looks okay.
Does that look okay?
Well, you want to see how it just gets worse and worse and worse. The play was halted every 15 minutes to clear the snow. 60 minutes, so after they played the 90 minutes, look, see how thick it's getting now?
Oh, I love it.
I mean, look at the ball just stop.
Oh,
They're still in shorts.
You know what?
How are they still in shorts?
Madness, absolutely mad. But what fun to play.
Oh, I know.
I mean, you'd be sliding along. Look at this. And it takes a lot of skill to be involved in this.
Can I just say this is the difference between men and women? You two going, oh, it'd be so fun to play in a I'd be having a cup of tea, I'd be leaving you to it, and I'll see you in 90 minutes.
That is the best fun.
I don't want to start getting into the transgender debate if we're going to talk about snow, playing football in snow as well.
You couldn't pay me to be...
Stop being a snowflake, Paul.
I know. But let's have a look at the goal. Look, can we see the goal? Because this is Mexican David Rodriguez.
Oh.
Have a look at this. Now, watch this. Overhead kick. A bicycle kick, they're calling an icicle kick.
Of course they are,
That
Paul.
was the winner, the icicle kick.
Very good.
What a goal, but look at that. Fantastic.
They're all mad. Look, they're having a lovely time.
Look at this, look at this. The head comes
Crazy.
up. Back to Rodriguez, over the head, in the back of the net. Goalkeeper can't see anything.
That is amazing.
I'm surprised you could see the goal.
I don't think any fans could. Everybody seemed to have a lovely time.
Well, I am jealous of that.
Thanks,
more of that
Coity.
in future, please.
Very
we'll have
good.
more of that.
Very, very good. Thanks, Coity.
OK. Time for the great British giveaway now, and if you're feeling festive after all that snow in Ottawa, how about Christmas on us this year? That's £40,000 cash to spend on the Christmas of your dreams, £1,000 to spend on lunch alone from your favourite supermarket, and a GB News festive goodie bag. Here's all the details you need to win.
You could win your entire Christmas on us this year, all magically delivered to you in time for the big day. There's cash, £30,000 in tax-free cash to make your new year go with a bang. There's also a further £10,000 to spend on all the gifts, the tree, the trimmings, everything you might need for a fantastic festive day. We've also got Christmas lunch for you, with £1,000 in vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a festive GB News goodie bag, so there's something for everyone under the tree. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good
Got
luck.
the issue.
Now, if you're travelling to work or
issue
school this morning, here's your traffic and travel update.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A9 is presently closed at Cromarty Bridge due to a multi-vehicle collision, urging motorists to seek alternative routes and to allow extra journey time. Additionally, the M48 will impose a 7.5-tonne weight restriction for heavy goods vehicles, effective from May 27, 2025 until further notice. On the M1 northbound, between junctions 40 and 41, one of the 4 lanes is temporarily closed, but normal traffic conditions are anticipated to resume shortly. Meanwhile, there's significant disruption on the Elizabeth line affecting routes between Reading, Heathrow Terminal 5 and London Paddington. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Still to come now, Prince William has spoken about the importance of being candid with his children, recalling conversations with them about Catherine and King Charles's cancer diagnoses.
Yeah, we'll have more on all of that and other stories making the news this morning with David Wooding and Anna Firth. Morning, you two. Chat to you in just a second. This is GB News Breakfast with Ellie and Chris.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
A really important thing about GB News, and it's brought something completely different to the landscape.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, the reality is that most British journalists are afraid. That's not GB News.
Journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
We're here to talk about things in a way that have never been broadcast on British airways before.
Do not miss a moment on GB News.
The #1 news channel in the country.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
OK, joining us to go through what's making the news is the former Conservative MP Anna Firth and the former editor of the Sunday Express, David Wooding. Great to see you both.
Morning, you two.
Anna, to you first. What a headline on the Telegraph today. Trump to sue BBC for $1 billion. You couldn't... That's not a headline you think you'd be writing at the start of the year, is it?
It's not, and, you know, it's really, really sad and it's really, really disappointing. But you've got to say that the BBC have completely and utterly brought this upon themselves.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about... You go right back to the Hutton inquiry. That was the first Director General and Chairman that had to go when the BBC was lambasted for its reporting there. And then you think of Hugh Edwards, you think of Jimmy Savile, you think of Lord McAlpine, you think of Martin Bashir and the forged documents interviewing Lady Diana. I mean, everybody can think of not just one or two, but 4 or 5 examples of partiality in the BBC. And to see Deborah Turnis last night coming out saying, yes, I've gone, but there is no impartiality in the BBC.
Issue. Yeah.
Why is he suing? Because of blatant partiality. I mean, it's absolutely appalling. The BBC need to wake up, they need to apologise. They've been caught red-handed. I'd say this is their very last chance.
Well, they've apologised generally, haven't they, with that statement by Samir Shah
on this issue,
but they haven't, on this issue in particular, but they haven't issued yet a personal apology to President Trump. Do you think they need to do that?
I do think they need to do that because this wasn't just a mistake. You know, this was deliberate editing on a flagship programme which when we were all growing up, we thought of as being a gold service.
So Dave, you're a former editor of a newspaper. How hard is it to apologise if you're in charge of editorial?
Well, I mean, if this had happened in a tabloid newspaper, I mean, the BBC would be going apoplectic. But what they're doing instead is making excuses. As Anna just said, they're calling it a mistake. It's not a mistake. It's a deliberate doctoring of a film to give the false impression. And, you know, we had on the Today programme yesterday. I listened to it for the first time in about 5 years to see how they'd react. Yeah. And they're talking about some kind of siege mentality. They've bunkered down. Nick Robinson saying that they're all out to get us. It's turned from panorama to paranoia. I mean, it's just ridiculous. They should just put their hands up. They've covered it up for six months. Now they've been caught out, they should put their hands up and say it was awful, make heads roll and apologise. But instead, they've given something to The Guardian here about a former board member, Robbie Gibb, who's got links to the Conservative Party, who worked in Number 10 when Theresa May was
we all
branded.
knew that, didn't we?
Well, yeah, so what? Is that a great crime to have a right-wing view?
If you are unbiased and you want unbiased coverage, you are going to need people of a left-wing mentality and a right-wing mentality. You're bored, are you not?
Now, what I think is the poison at the absolute core of this is their morning journalistic meeting, their editorial meeting, where they decide what will be the line across all of their outlets for the entire day. Because that, to me, is the very opposite of impartial reporting. You would expect one programme might take one angle, another reporter might take another, which is the way you do it, and the way LBC do it.
You see, there's a groupthink within the BBC, and Nick Robinson and John Simpson have been taking this Kool-Aid that, you know, we're high and mighty, we can do no wrong, and that this is all people out to get us. It's not a big mistake, you know. I mean, when the phone hacking scandal happened, a dozen years ago, a newspaper was closed down over that, and loads of people, many of them innocent, lost their job. And I remember going on television myself straight afterwards and saying, this is a scandal, and I was working for that paper, you know. This paper has done wrong. It's disgusting. They should admit that they're mistakes, but no, the BBC seem to think they're above making mistakes.
That's why I'm afraid they may well now be beyond saving, because if you can't admit a mistake, how can you fix it?
Yeah. Just very quickly, on page 6 in the Telegraph, David, there's some people, former employees of the BBC, speaking out of what life is really like at the broadcaster. One of the quotes is this: if you weren't part of the more woke left-leaning brigade, your opportunities for progression were limited. I mean, that's how people feel inside the BBC, but these people have now left there.
Absolutely. There's a couple of things I can mention on that. I once went in to do a newspaper review there a few years ago at the BBC, and I was told these 5 or 6 stories, but there was a really big story on the front page of The Sun. And I said, well, what about this story on The Sun? Oh, what's that? They hadn't even looked at it, and they couldn't find a copy of The Sun anywhere, and we were looking round for one, and there were dozens of copies of The Guardian. I mean, that's the way they have it. And I know another person who went in there to make a film, a freelance, and he was talking about the migrant crisis and said, oh, you know, what they need to do is kick them out as soon as they arrive. And everybody gasped as if he'd uttered some kind of profanity, because that's not the thinking within the BBC. They have a different mindset, and they've all got into this groupthink that...
And yet they're paid hundreds and thousands of pounds. That's the other thing I object to as a licence payer. £180 for your licence. OK, that's not a huge amount, but it is for some. But if you don't pay it, those awful letters come out, threatening letters, and you could go, they say in those letters, you could go to prison. And yet here they are, not delivering the service they say they are, and being being paid hundreds of thousands. I'm afraid
it is a big organisation, and they need good managers, so they would justify those salaries on those grounds, probably. But
OK, Anna, David, we're going to leave it there for a few minutes. We're going to head to a break, and then we'll be back with more papers. Still to come, ever been a victim of porch pirates? I know I have. A record number of goods have been stolen from our doorsteps this year. We're going to be finding out about that and much more. Continuing the papers, Anna and David. But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast across Europe.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
A lot of fine weather at the moment across the Med, but whilst it's warm in Spain, there is some wet and windy weather moving through Madeira, approaching the Channel Islands and also affecting Portugal. Later, that's going to push through parts of Spain, but ahead of it we've got a southerly airflow and above average temperatures, a lot of sunshine through Italy into Greece as well. Keen breeze here, 1 or 2 showers, and you can see that unsettled weather affecting Tenerife on Thursday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
We do have problems in the UK at the moment, but I will say I don't think it's all doom and gloom. We have great safety nets here, strict protections to protect and help children. We have free education ranking 4th in the world for universities as well. Free NHS, dodgy as it may be sometimes. And we also have a lot of culture, history and green spaces, which I think is really important. 74% of children said that they can walk to a park or green space near them. So I don't think it's all that bad, but I do think we have lost our sense of community, and that's something that we need to work on.
Why do you think it is that so many fewer people are having children now? I mean, the birthing, the sort of fertility crisis that this country has entered into, to be fair, matching basically all of the developed world, fewer and fewer people are having children.
I don't think it's just about the money. I think there's actually a huge social media rise of child-free influencers. I don't know if you've seen any of these, but they're just very anti-children.
They call them dinks. Have you heard of dinks? Double income, no kids.
Oh, yeah. It's very interesting. And I think it's, you know, we look at somewhere like Somalia, where they have around average 5 children per family. They have virtually no benefit system, no pension system. Their children are their pension. And so I think in the UK, maybe we have too many options. People, I'm not saying it's all avocado on toast, but I think people are just really not seeing it as a popular option.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Joining us to go through what's in the news today is the former Conservative MP Anna Firth and the former editor of the Sunday Express, David Wooding. David, to you first. Page 1 of the Telegraph. Reeves hints you shall raise tax to scrap the 2-child benefit cap.
It's another hint, Christopher. I mean, they've been dropping hints for some time now, and it's becoming blatantly obvious that we're all going to get clobbered in a couple of weeks' time when the budget happens. But the suggestion that being made here is that she's saying, the Chancellor's saying that she doesn't want to, that raising taxes would avoid making cuts which would damage, hurt people. And the suggestion is she's going to scrap the two-child benefit cap.
Yeah.
So it's quite clear to me from what's happening is that the Chancellor has decided that she's going to carry on spending and we're all going to pay more for that to happen.
This one measure is I think it's 2 or 3.5 billion by the end of the decade. I mean, what it means, by the way, is lifting the cap at which you can claim benefits. So if you're on benefits, you can claim benefits for the third, fourth and fifth child rather than stopping it. Now, George Osborne brought this in, didn't he, Anna, during the coalition? Yeah. It was very controversial then, and I think the Conservatives liked it, didn't they? Because it was showing a degree of discipline amongst the family. If you can't afford children, don't have any more, is the point.
And it's not just the Conservatives that liked it. The whole country likes this. The latest YouGov polling shows that 2/3 of the country are in favour of there being a cap, because it's common sense. Why should hard-working people in Southend or Leigh-on-Sea, who have to budget, who have to decide how many children can they afford, why should they be paying for other people not to have to make those decisions and for other people to have more children than they can afford to have themselves? That's plainly unfair and it's unsustainable. And this is, I mean, this is a disaster for Labour. Let's be in no doubt. You know, this is their I did not have sexual relations with that woman moment, because they have said so clearly, we are not coming back for more tax rises. You know, we will not be raising your taxes, and it's plain as a pikestaff they are coming back. Why are they having to come back? Because last year's budget was such a disaster. They tanked the economy and made the whole situation worse for everyone, and now we are going to have to pay the price for it.
OK, Anna, let's stay with you, shall we? And look at these porch pirates. What's going on here?
This is a story in the Telegraph in which they identify that there's been an enormous rise in the number of people who have had things stolen off their porches. I think as you go through London, we're quite familiar with seeing HelloFresh or parcels on people's porches. Yeah. But obviously it's so tempting. Thank you, Chris. It's so tempting for thieves. Not that I've got, you know, I mean, I think it's absolutely appalling, the number. 666 million parcels have now been stolen. No, a record 666 million worth of parcels, to be accurate. 5 million homes. That is a huge amount. And I think, Ellie, you've actually had experience of this.
Yeah, I've been a victim of this. So for my wedding, I ordered a dress, not my wedding dress, but a different outfit for the weekend, and it was left outside my house. I live on a really busy main road, so I think that is one of the factors here. And it was pinched, stolen from the front of my house. So
are you insured for that? Who's insured?
Well, no. So thankfully, it was paid for on a credit card. So I'm still disputing it with my credit card company. So this is months on. It's really difficult.
Maybe
they say it was in a safe space because it was behind some bins. I mean, I wouldn't regard that as a safe space.
No,
on a busy road. But anyway,
I mean, I think it's really important that you have a designated safe space, whether that's a box with a code on it, or whether it's a porch. Or you've got to have CCTV. Otherwise, very hard for the police to catch these pirates.
But most people in ordinary homes don't have CCTV or boxes.
Or doorbell rings.
But there is hope for the high street, maybe. Maybe people will think, I can't get things stolen if I go to the high street and buy. So maybe people will return
my goods.
Yes.
David, to you quickly, Telegraph page 3, Prince William, children knew all about Kate's cancer.
Yes, this is an interesting. He's basically opened his heart here about how he talks to the children. He's sat them down and told them the severity of their grandfather, the king, and their mother. Princess Kate's illness. And he said, you know, you've got to be open with children. He said, but there is a limit to how much you tell them, but you have to be frank and sit them down and explain it to them. And it's quite a heartwarming interview about parenting.
They came across as really sensible, level-headed parents, talking about Prince George wanting a phone. He's 12 years old. They said no, he may have one next year, but it'll be a brick phone, no internet access.
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of parents are struggling with at the moment.
Well, I say good luck with that. I think we'll put our children up. Not easy policing that one.
Yeah, all right, David, Anna, thank you very much for your company. We'll see you in 45 minutes' time. Let's get a check now on the weather with Aidan.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Yet more windy and wet weather is expected today, particularly across western parts of the UK. The hills of southwest England, South Wales, southwest Scotland and Northern Ireland seeing quite a soaking as spells of rain push north and east across the UK. Briefly drier across the southern third, although staying cloudy and in some places with further spots of rain. But the strong wind coming in from the southwest will send another band of persistent wet weather into South Wales and the southwest of England by the afternoon. Driest and clearest in the far north of Scotland, 10 degrees here, elsewhere mid-teens. So despite the wet and windy weather, it is actually very mild for the time of year. Now, across northern Scotland, well, that's the place to be because we're going to end the day with clear spells, 1 or 2 showers, but otherwise mostly dry weather. As this spell of rain moves through central Scotland, another bout of wet weather pushing through Northern Ireland into the southwest of Scotland, reaching the central belt around 6 or 7 p.m. And then this wet weather moving through western England and Wales, a very soggy end of the day for Cardiff, for Exeter, and then that sweeps through the Midlands into eastern England through the evening, although fizzling out, so not much rain really for the southeast. A very mild night for the vast majority with that strong wind and areas of cloud in the south. Temperatures staying up at 14 or 15 Celsius, single figures further north, and having seen a dry day in northern Scotland on Tuesday, we're going to see spells of rain through Wednesday and a strong wind developing, but this wind is coming from the north, so it's going to turn colder through the day across Shetland and then eventually the north of the mainland as well as Orkney. Some of that rain turning to snow over the tops of the mountains, for example. A clear slot in the middle across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, northern England, but further wet weather in the south where it's going to be very mild once again.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for sharing over 5 million comments on your say, because when you talk, we listen.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M48 has a 7.5-tonne weight restriction for heavy goods vehicles, effective from the 27th of May 2025 until further notice. On the A9 at Cromarty Bridge, a serious road traffic collision has closed the road in both directions. Road users should seek alternative routes and plan for delays. And on the trains, disruptions are ongoing on the Elizabeth line between Reading, Heathrow Terminal 5 and London Paddington, as well as on the Gatwick Express between East Croydon and Purley. Stay up to date at gbnews.com for more travel news.
You could win your entire Christmas on us this year, all magically delivered to you in time for the big day. There's cash, £30,000 in tax-free cash to make your new year go with a bang. There's also a further £10,000 to spend on all the gifts. We've also got Christmas lunch for you, with £1,000 in vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a festive GB News goodie bag, so there's something for everyone under the tree. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. message or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Good morning. President Trump threatens to sue the BBC for $1 billion.
That's right. Donald Trump is demanding the BBC makes a full and fair retraction of what he's calling false, defamatory, disparaging, misleading and inflammatory statements. He got the thesaurus out there, hasn't he?
He certainly did, yes. Well, the BBC chairman, Samir Shah, has issued a public apology after the broadcaster admitting to editing a Donald Trump speech in a way that could have been seen as misleading.
But is this enough to repair the reputation of our national broadcaster, and has it ruined relations with the White House?
Well, this comes as the Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, is understood to be planning to launch her consultation on the BBC's Royal Charter before Christmas, with considerations of wholesale reform of the licence fee.
Meanwhile, Chancellor Rachel Reeves hints at scrapping the 2-child benefit cap, with the budget just weeks away.
The Prevent Counter-Terror scheme is no longer keeping the country safe. That's what a review has found, which calls for a radical overhaul of the system.
And former heads of the British Army have accused the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, of allowing human rights laws to undermine the effectiveness of our armed forces.
And the nation will fall silent later this morning to mark Armistice Day, honouring the moment that peace was declared after the First World War in 1918, on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, with a 2-minute silence. Of course, GB News is going to be across the United Kingdom, where commemorations are taking place.
And sport this morning, the International Olympic Committee is set to announce a ban on transgender women in competition. Middlesbrough manager Rob Edwards will be announced as the new boss of Wolverhampton Wanderers. And again, is this? I think the answer is yes, the snowiest cup final ever.
Yet more rain on the way through today and the next few days. Not everywhere will be soaking, though. Find out the full details in the forecast very soon.
Good morning, it's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Ellie Costello.
And I'm Christopher Hope, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Have you been a victim of this porch pirate stuff? People pinching things off your doorstep?
I think I have. I do think I have. But they just leave them on the... It's asking for trouble.
They are asking for trouble.
Yeah.
Have you?
No, I don't think so, no. I mean, is it labelled like expensive gear? Is it Louis Vuitton branding? If you put them
ask Ellie that, so...
I mean, it doesn't help things when you buy... I bought a present... It happened to me recently as well. Do you know, it happens to me all the time because I'm constantly online shopping and I live on a busy road. But I bought my friend a present from... Can I say it? A department store in London.
Oh.
And the parcel was left on my doorstep and
in the branding.
It obviously went went missing.
If you ask them
People are opportunistic.
If you ask this department store, let's not name it, to put them into a black bin bag on your door, it might be left there because people think it's rubbish.
Well, exactly, and then I think you run the risk of it going in the bin.
But then if it's not on bins day, it's fine.
And then they can hide it somewhere. I've had stuff where it's been left under somewhere and I've never seen it.
Yeah.
And then they take the photograph. I've often had that when it's someone else's house.
You put a sign, like, on a van saying, like, no valuables in this van, nothing of value in this bin bag.
Valuable in this package.
In this bin bag.
Yeah.
But that might signal... It might be quite good, though. It could be a double bluff.
This has caught my eye this morning.
You should be on the traitors the way you're doing it, Chris. That's magnificent.
Coity, this caught my eye this morning.
Yeah.
Actually, you've both got girl dogs, haven't you?
Yeah.
You've got Gladys and you've got Nellie.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I don't think you're... No, you're not on the list. Sorry. Luna is the most popular girl dog name.
Is Luna's the name of Prince William's dog, I'm thinking?
I thought it was Ludo. Ludo?
Ludo?
I think...
Every dog around my way is called Coco.
My dog has not got a very common name. He's called Tennyson after the poet, because I
thought
the most embarrassing thing I can think to shout in a field.
Ah, and do you shorten it?
Sometimes he's sometimes Tenny, but on the vet list he is Alfred Lord Tennyson Price, so Tennyson is shortened.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Lupo is the world dog.
What did I say? Ludo?
No, yeah, Luna.
That's closer. Anyway, Luna is number one. For the 5th year in a row. Also names like Taro and Twinkle are popular. I don't think I've ever heard Taro or Twinkle. Not sure how I feel about that.
Especially if it's a Great Dane. Come on, Twinkle.
Sabrina is up 312%.
That's not a dog's name.
Of Sabrina Carpenter, apparently. Dogs named after Oasis, the brothers Noel and Liam. Also on the rise, Noel, by the way, for a dog, is up 178%.
Where's Rover? Is Rover not there anymore? There's no Rovers?
Where's Tennyson on there? Come on.
I don't think Tennyson's made the list, I'm afraid, James.
I'm sure, James, that's really going to go through the sky.
There's only one Tennyson in the country, James.
I really want a blonde little dachshund called... what do I want to call it?
I don't know, Brexit?
I've just had a mind blank.
Louis?
Oh, Wilbur.
Wilbur.
Do you think
Wilbur is a really good name.
Don't you think that's a really good name for a dog?
I like dogs that have old human names.
Yeah, old human.
Kevin or something like that. Or Dave.
Steve.
Dave or Steve. It's great for a dog.
How about Jeff?
Jeff is another lovely dog
called Jeff.
My brother's dog was called Graham, for exactly.
See, I love that.
I think it's a
That's a great name for a dog.
Gladys is a lovely name.
Gladys, yeah, no,
Gladys is a lovely name.
Took a walking yesterday, tiny little Jack Russell.
Oh, she's so
replacing
cute.
Queenie, who died this year.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So how did you come up with Gladys?
A long time. Yes, it's a family choice. I basically make notes and report the answer.
Oh, well.
I have no real say over these things. In our
so
family,
my Nellie and your Gladys would be like two old ladies from the 1970s walking down the road, wouldn't they?
It's very cute. Well, let us know what you think. What your dogs are called, perhaps.
That's right.
TVNews.com/you'll say. Keep in touch with us this morning. Now, 7:06, our top story, and Donald Trump has threatened to sue the BBC for $1 billion. It's over the editing of his speech in a Panorama documentary.
His legal team is accusing the corporation of defaming the US president and has demanded a retraction, giving the broadcaster until Friday, 5 p.m. to respond.
Well, last night on The Late Show Live, GB News' Ben Leo had an exclusive interview with the lawyer representing President Trump.
What do you want them to respond with? What are you looking for? What is the president looking for by that Friday deadline?
The letter completely states our position with respect to what transpired, as well as what the president seeks, which are three things. Number one, a full and complete retraction of the defamatory statements made by the BBC. Two, an apology to the president for engaging in such intentional and biased reporting. And three, a monetary settlement proposal to be made by the BBC in order to remedy the financial harm that they caused the president to suffer as a result of their intentional conduct.
Now, the former political advisor James Price joins us now. James, this is a disaster for the BBC. You don't want to go into legal battle with the most powerful man on earth, do you?
No, I would go as far as to call it a bit of a dog's dinner, in fact. I think, you know, the scandal here is not just the crime, it's the cover-up, as we've said before. Yeah. But if we're talking about it from the perspective of Donald Trump, this is a man who has been misquoted and defamed over and over again in all kinds of ways. So just remember, there was some awful, far-right march march or something in somewhere in America, and Trump was asked about it, and he denounced all of the people there who were neo-Nazis and all the rest of it. And yet American broadcasters spliced that speech to make it sound like he said they were very good people. And the more that people in America have come to realise that that was a lie, it's led to lots more Trump voters, because they've seen how many times Trump has been misquoted or lied about, etc. in the past. That happened in his first term, and the fact that we've now got this happening over in Britain compounds it. So I think you're hitting a really sore spot with, exactly as you say, Chris, the richest man, most powerful man almost in the world.
What do you think this means for the relationship between the US and the UK? Because his reaction to this, President Trump saying, is this how you treat an ally who many people would say is our closest ally?
Yeah, and I'd be one of those people. I think in the way that the world is going, getting more dangerous, the European Union very, very weak economically and militarily, the rise of China, the rise of all kinds of other scary actors around the world. Churchill's last piece of advice to his cabinet, never be separated from the Americans. I think that's pretty good advice. The special relationship has seen us right for a long time. And that this is the danger when you have people call it a national broadcaster, I'd call it the state broadcaster, when it goes off piece like this. And you heard in the paper review just then, this is not the first time that the BBC has done these sorts of problems, and multiple directors general have had to resign over it. But never before have they angered the most powerful person in the world, who doesn't have to run again for a third term and doesn't mind getting very litigious.
Parliament is back today after this short, you might call it half-term break for the MPs. Will this become a political issue today? What will Keir Starmer do? Should he be worrying about the special relationship when you've got a taxpayer-funded organisation in a potential legal battle with Donald Trump?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to give Keir Starmer any credit if I can possibly help it, but keeping the special relationship alive and having a good working relationship with Donald Trump is probably one of the few successes that he's had so far. So I definitely think it will cause a headache. I think the bigger problem as well is that you're going to have people now, and I can see Nick Robinson from the BBC's face peering out from one of these newspapers. Not only have they been getting the tinfoil hats out, I think various left-wing MPs will start coming out, like Ed Davy, as if anyone knows who he is, coming out and saying, oh, it's so terrible, there's this right-wing plot against the BBC, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not. The fact is they were caught red-handed lying, essentially, on this show, and lots of other areas as well. Not only that, but they were found to have ignored this when this report went up to the very highest level. Parliament should investigate this, and I think the author of the report is going to be speaking before a select committee shortly.
What do you make, though, of these claims, as you say, by presenters coming together now, referring to political interference, talking about hostile takeovers of parts of the BBC? I mean, a number of them yesterday suggesting that Sir Robbie Gibb, who's a BBC board member, also former Downing Street Director of Communications under Theresa May, that he needs to be removed from the board. What do you make of that?
It's sort of Pravda-esque, isn't it? This is what you get in the Soviet Union. Let's unperson somebody. This is one guy, right? Right. So Robbie Gibb, yeah, he's clearly a Tory. He was Director of Communications for Theresa May. That's what you want. You don't mind having people who have these biases, as long as they're known, which in Robbie Gibb's case, it clearly is. But what about everybody else? What do they believe in?
But you mentioned Pravda. Isn't that the point? Is there a concern that the government can appoint people to the board of the BBC? Robbie Gibb was a Tory appointment. There'll be Labour appointments going in there. Is that right? I mean, I guess they're trying to do it so they recognise a change of government. They're trying to reflect the electorate's wishes, I suppose. That's why you allow the government to appoint to the board of the BBC. But it doesn't look great, does it?
No, it doesn't look great. I think if you want to bring sort of democracy into this, why wouldn't you say, OK, let's move to a model where the Director General is perhaps directly elected by licence fee payers? You get a vote if you pay the licence fee, and people can set out their stall of what they would want to do in a 5-year, 10-year term or whatever. And you say, actually, I'm going to stand on a platform that the BBC only does high culture and things like that wouldn't exist in a commercial space. If you like that idea, you all go and vote for it. I think there are all kinds of things, given the competition the BBC is facing from places like GB News on the one side and Netflix and all that sort of stuff on the other. It can't continue the way it's going, clearly, because it keeps making these basic errors of news reporting.
We've just had some breaking news, James, that we'd like your reaction to, and that is the rate of UK unemployment rose to 5% in the 3 months to September. That's up from 4.8% in the 3 months to August. This is from the Office for National Statistics. UK average regular earnings growth fell to 4.6% in the 3 months to September. It was 0.8% higher after taking consumer price index inflation into account. As that breaking news, the rate of UK unemployment rose to 5%, up from 4.8%. What do you make of that?
Well, I'm really sad for people that have lost their jobs and can't find them, but I can't exactly say I'm surprised. If you go and come into office and you don't understand how business works, you don't understand how the economy works at all, as is clearly, from my opinion, the case with Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, how can you be shocked when the economy does poorly? You've got wealthy people leaving the country, you've got businesses shutting down because of all the extra and excess regulation that's coming along. I think it's the case that no Labour government ever in history has ever left office with employment higher than when they came into office. It just is not normally so fast that things go badly. And, of course, with the budget coming up in, just over 2 weeks, it's more painful reading for Rachel Reeves. And do we really think that she's going to turn this around and go, oh, I suddenly realised that business is good and excess regulation is bad and all these economic things I've been ignoring for years I'm going to adopt? No, of course not. It's going to get worse from here, I'm afraid.
So we're not in a jobless crisis yet, but we are looking at red tape being attached to employers. Day one rights for new hires makes it less likely some employers might hire. The national insurance increase for employers, that's a problem. Increases in taxation for ordinary people, they may push it onto those who are wealthier. I mean, it is tricky. At what point do you say to this, look, it's understandable, last government did raise £400 billion, didn't they, on the COVID inquiry, on the COVID pandemic and also Ukraine. It has to be paid for in taxation.
Yeah, everything has to be paid for. There's no such thing as a free lunch. And a huge amount of money, as you say, in the pandemic, huge amounts of money that gets redistributed in all kinds of ways. And we've got to be honest about the fact that Britain is just not a very rich country anymore. That sounds absurd in some ways to say, but we're taxing more than we have at any point since the Second World War. We're borrowing huge amounts, and that borrowing is just taxation that people's parents, grandchildren, grandparents, all the rest of it will have to keep paying for generations. It's going to get worse, I'm afraid to say, before it gets better.
OK, James Price, good to see you this morning. Thank you very much indeed.
OK, so member of the Israeli Knesset, Sharon Haskell, joined us now to discuss the BBC's crisis, and particularly the report put out leaked by Michael Prescott. Sharon, thank you for joining us. What your reaction, please, to the crisis here involving our national broadcaster?
Oh, well, finally, I've called dozens of times for the resignation of him, and this is after 2 years. 2 years of biased reporting. I think almost every day they had to fix some of their reports or some of their headlines or apologize for it. I mean, someone has to take accountability. I think this should have happened straight after either the Bob Villain and the death to the IDF chants of death. I think it should have happened after it was revealed that they've used a Hamas puppet, a Hamas son, to actually narrate their movie. But it's better late than never. Israel's only asking to be treated fairly. That's all.
And what was clear in this memo by Michael Prescott was the disparity between the coverage between BBC News, as it is in the UK, and BBC Arabic. And allegations in this memo, I'm sure you're across all of this, but that they pushed out pro-Hamas propaganda without any scrutiny, that they were platforming well-known anti-Semites. I mean, was any of that shocking to you, or was this something that you already knew?
That's not shocking at all. We knew it. For 2 years, they've trashed Israel's reputation, using propaganda, using Hamas's propaganda, spreading blood libels and complete fabrications. I mean, think about what heated so much of the anti-Semitic attacks in London as well, but in many other places around the world. BBC is being broadcasted in many other countries in Arabic as well. Someone had to must be accountable for that. And I think there has to be a deep and thorough reorganization of what is happening in their newsroom and their editing room.
BBC Arabic is funded in part by a grant from the UK Foreign Office because it comes under the BBC World Service. Do you think that that needs to be paused? Do you think that that needs to be looked at by the UK government?
Well, I think that if they cannot be neutral, if they continuously spread radical propaganda And I think that, you know, this is not just about reporting about Israel, but this is about radicalizing people in the UK as well. Of course, he should withdraw it. The UK taxpayers shouldn't fund Hamas's, a terrorist prescribed organization in the UK, propaganda. Absolutely.
OK. Sharon Haskell, thank you for joining us on GB News Breakfast. Now, the chairman of the BBC, Shamir Shah, said this yesterday.
Since publication of Mr Prescott's memo, this issue has led to over 500 complaints. These are the issue of President Trump's clip in the Panorama documentary. These are now being dealt with in the normal way, and it has also prompted further reflection by the BBC.
The conclusion of that deliberation is that we accept that the way the speech, the Donald Trump speech, was edited did give the impression of a direct call for violent action. The BBC would like to apologise for that error of judgment.
Now, at 18 minutes past 7, former heads of the army have accused the Prime Minister of allowing human rights law to undermine the effectiveness of Britain's armed forces.
That's right. 9 four-star generals have signed an open letter in the Times newspaper to warn that soldiers' trust in the legal system has deteriorated to the extent that it presents a direct threat to our national security.
Well, they blame so-called lawfare being used to fight political or ideological battles. They say the decisions made in combat, which were lawful at the time, are later re-evaluated in the misplaced light of hindsight.
Former Commander-in-Chief of the UK Land Forces, General Sir Nick Parker, joins us now. Thank you for joining us today, General Sir Nick. What has happened here? Is the government allowing lawyers to try and run military decisions, and that makes our troops on the front line think twice before acting in a national interest?
Could I just, before I answer that, could I just make one point? That one of the reasons we've written this letter is because today is Armistice Day. We really do need to reflect on the sacrifice of those who gave their lives for the country, not, of course, in the 2 world wars, but also in the conflicts which we've had since then. And it's in the light of that that we've written this letter. And in broad terms, where the issue has been triggered by this new bill that's coming in to replace the legacy bill brought in by the last government. And our deep concern is that this threatens veterans who've served their country in the past, particularly in the Northern Ireland campaign, and that this has a direct relationship for our ability to be able to fight future wars because of the application of law in what we consider to be a wholly inappropriate way for those who have to deploy extreme violence in the cause of their country.
Are you concerned about this increasing loss of numbers of personnel from the SAS, from the CBS? Do you think these two issues are related?
I don't have any direct information on that. I wouldn't be surprised because if you look at the way that a veteran who served in Northern Ireland in 1972, 1973, feels threatened that his actions, which then were undertaken in the context of the yellow card, so exactly as the state expected him to behave in an insurrection, and he is then being examined with the benefit of hindsight using human rights law to judge his actions, then if I was a soldier on the front line now, I would be very wary about the conditions that I was operating in. Now, I don't have exact details, and there will be, I am sure, implications of people who decide that this is not the right conditions for them to serve, and they'll leave.
But General Sir Nick Parker, your letter also says that the main tool for this is the ever-broadening interpretation of the European Convention on Human Rights. Does that mean that you and your fellow former generals think it's time to leave the ECHR?
No, the point, we know that we have to operate within the law, but the way the law is being applied at the moment makes it extremely difficult for us to prosecute operations effectively without this risk of retrospective examination. Our view, and I'm not a lawyer, but our view is that you need to rewrite the framework so that it takes account of these laws, but it critically takes account of what it is that you're trying to achieve and makes sure that you have the legal framework to do that. So in the context of this Troubles bill that's going through, what we would say is that the Legacy Commission can deal with the aspects of victims, but you need a new legal framework which will allow veterans to be protected from retrospective examination and this pernicious examination of their affairs 50 years ago, and a framework which allows soldiers in the future, soldiers, sailors, airmen and women in the future, to conduct operations effectively. A new framework that takes account of human rights law.
OK, General Sir Nick Parker, thank you very much for joining us this morning on Breakfast.
Now, a government spokesman has said this: we promised our veterans who serve with honour in Northern Ireland that we will put proper protections in place, and the Northern Ireland Troubles Bill delivers on that commitment.
Well, after the false promises of the last government, we're putting in place 6 real, workable protections for veterans that the failed Legacy Act never did. We will not allow the process, like so many times before, to become the punishment for our veterans.
OK, now it's time for the weather with Aidan McGibbon.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Yet more windy and wet weather is expected today, particularly across western parts of the UK. The hills of southwest England, South Wales, southwest Scotland and Northern Ireland seeing quite a soaking as spells of rain push north and east across the UK. Briefly drier across the southern third, although staying cloudy and in some places with further spots of rain. But the strong wind coming in from the southwest will send another band of persistent wet weather into South Wales and the southwest of England by the afternoon. Driest and clearest in the far north of Scotland, 10 degrees here, elsewhere mid-teens. So despite the wet and windy weather, it is actually very mild for the time of year. Now, across northern Scotland, well, that's the place to be because we're going to end the day with clear spells, 1 or 2 showers, but otherwise mostly dry weather. As this spell of rain moves through central Scotland, another bout of wet weather pushing through Northern Ireland into the southwest of Scotland, reaching the central belt around 6 or 7 p.m. And then this wet weather moving through western England and Wales, a very soggy end to the day for Cardiff, for Exeter, and then that sweeps through the Midlands into eastern England through the evening, although fizzling out, so not much rain really for the southeast. A very mild night for the vast majority with that strong wind and areas of cloud in the south. Temperatures staying up at 14 or 15 Celsius, single figures further north, and having seen a dry day in northern Scotland on Tuesday, we're going to see spells of rain through Wednesday and a strong wind developing, but this wind is coming from the north, so it's going to turn colder through the day across Shetland and then eventually the north of the mainland as well as Orkney. Some of that rain turning to snow over the tops of the mountains, for example. A clear slot in the middle across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, northern England, but further wet weather in the south where it's going to be very mild once again.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversations.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Now, health leaders are warning that St George's flags are creating no-go zones for NHS staff, with some facing frequent abuse.
Well, according to several NHS Trust chief executives and leaders, staff feel intimidated by the presence of flags across the country, including when they're visiting people in their own homes in order to give them treatment.
That comes as a poll of senior managers found that 45% were extremely concerned about discrimination towards NHS staff from patients and the public, while a further third were moderately concerned.
So this morning we're debating, are St George's flags creating these no-go zones, and is this part of a wider problem? Well, joining us now is political commentator Andy Twelves and Defence and Security spokesman for Foreign Affairs, Henry Bolton. Very good morning to you both. Andy, let's start with you. Do you think St George's flags make no-go zones in the country?
I think they've certainly been used to create those over the last couple of months. You know, I'm a proud Englishman. I love my country and I love, you know, the St George's flags and the Union flags. But we have seen a lot of people using them to exclude people rather than include them in our culture. For a lot of minority communities, seeing rows of flags, you know, suddenly appear on estates, on roads, on roundabouts, it isn't about pride. It can feel like a warning, a way of saying, you know, this space is claimed, you know, so you better watch yourself. You know, I look at that NHS staff survey, you know, what was it, 45% feel intimidated, feel like it creates a no-go zone. You know, just I do trust them. I mean, a lot of those NHS staff that have to go and do the at-home care have a really difficult job. I don't think they should be facing any more intimidation or any more barriers than they already have to. And I think this is just adding to the problem.
But that surely is not what's intended. It's simply a community feeling pride in their flag, Henry Bolton.
Yeah, indeed, Chris. I don't see any basis for this whatsoever. I think what is happening here is that perhaps these staff, when their managers are saying, oh, I'm worried about this, not because they've got any statistical or you know, real evidence that there is intimidation or some, you know, there's been a history of attacks. And in fact, they're sort of misusing things. I think one of the claims is that a care worker might have to go into a home where there's a sex offender. You know, and the implication being that the local population might not want that care worker to go in there. Well, look, that's nothing to do with the St George's flag. Nothing whatsoever. So they are sort of they're fabricating an environment of fear and intimidation that does not exist, which inevitably then will impact their ethnic minority staff. And I think that is incredibly irresponsible, but I think it's a very clever tactic for yet another criticism against the St George's flag. And the other thing, finally, I'd say, is that I have travelled all over the world to some very, very dangerous countries, not just dangerous in a military sense,
but in a criminal sense as well, where the flag has been ubiquitous, the national flag of that country. The flag has not in any way ever intimidated me. It is the actual real practical risk on the ground that might have an effect on your behaviour and the protection of the measures you take, but not the flag itself. There is no reason whatsoever to be intimidated by a flag.
Andy, do you really think that people are intimidated by the St George's flag?
I think definitely. I think, when we think over the summer, the Operation Raise the Colours, I think it was called, up in York, a Chinese takeaway that had been open for 15 or 20 years on that street, started with the flags, and then it ended up with graffiti on it saying, "Go home." Do you know what I mean? These kind of things, they escalate extremely quickly, and I think it does create that environment where it's not about patriotism, it's about this kind of intimidation. When we're celebrating things like...
Sorry to interrupt. Something that has been intimidating has been the sea of Palestinian flags that we've seen around this country. That's been accompanied with threatening behaviour. That's been accompanied by large groups of people who are exclusive.
I think they're as stupid, Henry. To be honest, I think they're as stupid. I don't want to see the Ulsterification of Britain. I don't think we need flags hanging from every lamppost, on every wall, on every street. I think it's appropriate when it's rugby or football or like Remembrance over the weekend. I think that's appropriate, and it's nice and patriotic then, but not every day.
The lesson then is that the authorities need to ensure that these communities are listened to, that justice and policing is applied equitably, that there is no space for the perception that one community or another is being treated differently. I think that's what the Raise the Colours thing and the Unite the Kingdom march was about, was a plea for help. Listen, we're out here as well, We're in these destitute communities that have been neglected ever since the Welsh Valley mines closed and so on. We are absolutely being ignored, cut off by this government, and then we're having immigration hotels being sort of dumped on us. We're not happy.
Henry Bolton and Andy Twelves, thank you so much for that debate. Thanks for coming on.
Let us know what you think on that one, gbnews.com/your say. Now, time for the Great British Giveaway now. It's a festive one. It's a goodie. Here are all of the details that you need.
You could win your entire Christmas on us this year, all magically delivered to you in time for the big day. There's cash, £30,000 in tax-free cash to make your new year go with a bang. There's also a further £10,000 to spend on all the gifts, the tree, the trimmings, everything you might need for a fantastic festive day. We've also got Christmas lunch for you, with £1,000 in vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a festive GB News goodie bag, so there's something for everyone under the tree. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Thank you so much for helping us to reach 8 million followers and subscribers across our social media channels. That's 8 million fearless Brits standing up for what really matters.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Due to a broken down vehicle, the westbound A8 at Port Glasgow is restricted and drivers are advised to approach with caution. The M48 has a 7.5-ton weight restriction for heavy goods vehicles starting from May 27, 2025 until further notice. Surrey drivers on the M25 clockwise between Junction 5 and Junction 6 should be alert as one lane remains closed due to a broken vehicle. And on the trains, there are disruptions on the Elizabeth line between Reading, Heathrow Terminal 5 and London Paddington, as well as on the Gatwick Express between East Croydon and Purley. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What we're going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very, very easy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
And we're back now. It's time to go through all latest sports news with Paul Coit. Hello, Coity.
Hello, mate. I thought I'd mention Liverpool with you because...
No need to.
In your honour.
Because after we did it yesterday, and I feel as if we didn't rub it in enough.
Yes, OK.
So we're going again. Now, Liverpool have made contact with the PGMOL, which is the referees, you know, the group, etc., to raise concerns about Virgil van Dijk's disallowed goal that happened against Manchester City on Sunday when he jumped up and headed the ball, although...
Andy Robertson
was kind of in the way, ducked under, and then you had Donnarumma couldn't actually get... Well, he probably could have got to the ball, but they're saying that it should have been a goal, but...
I know.
He was interfering, though, wasn't he?
Even as a Liverpool fan, I think complaining after the event about referees is ridiculous. Just move on. Honestly, I know, just own the defeat and move on. I took this as a red fan of my entire life. No, but I think...
No messing around, just move on.
Just get on with it. It's a referee.
It's done and dusted, it's not going to change, just get on with it.
Yeah.
So do you think it was the wrong decision, though?
I think it was the wrong decision, and at 1-1, it could have affected the game, so that's problematic. Okay. But I just think that when the game's over, don't sort of litigate it after the event.
Ellie, what do you think?
Don't litigate it after the event.
I knew you'd say that.
Said, Ellie. That's it.
I'll stick with him.
Right, Lewis Hamilton.
Yes. Stop talking.
No, Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc have been told by the team president of Ferrari, John Elkman, which is not a very Italian name, I know, basically, focus on your driving and talk less. He's actually saying, more of this, less of this.
Yeah.
So, both failed to finish in the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. It's been a disaster, really, hasn't it? I mean, I say it's been a disaster for Lewis Hamilton. He's made an absolute fortune, but it's not about the money. It's about the winning. So,
maybe he's upset about his dog.
do you think still...
I think he's very affected by it. I'm being deadly serious. I think he's been really bad.
Deadly serious?
Deadly serious.
Well, I mean, me and Chris have both had this in the past year.
I know, but it does affect you.
But it's not going to affect his driving, though, is it?
I don't know.
The point is just drive. Just stop making grandstanding gestures and talking about stuff.
Well,
I think that's
you sound like the
right.
Ferrari chairman.
But that's right, isn't it? I think it feels right.
You know, if we were professional sportsmen, we'd just get on with it, wouldn't we? No moaning about it. Elkin said, in F1, see, you can see what he's saying here. He says, in F1, we have the mechanics who did their job, very good, including the poles and pit stops. We had the engineers who did the same with the car, clearly improving. The rest wasn't up to par. So we know who the rest are, don't we, Lewis? and Charles.
Yeah.
Should we have a very quick look at the Ashes?
Yes.
In Chris's honour as well. He's very
Yes,
happy with
Yes, I've done this for Chris.
Yeah, very
because if we
So
just keep
exciting.
feeding the excitement. 10 days to go to the first test. It's the Ashes in Perth. England are playing in Australia. Now, this morning, and this was this morning, just a couple of hours ago, because over in Australia, it was in Melbourne, actually, the MCG. Ian Botham was there with Greg, not with Ian Chappell, because he hates Ian Chappell. Him and Ian Chappell don't get it. It was Greg Chappell. So Greg is Ian's brother, isn't he?
Possibly.
I believe so.
I think so.
So Greg Chappell, and he was questioned, this is Ian Botham, am I confusing the issue, whether England are ready or not for the Ashes. This is what Ian Botham just had to say.
Well, it's not the way I would prepare. I think historically you have to acclimatise when you come down here. You've got to remember there's 24.5 million people you're playing against, not 11. And you have to take that on board. And to start in Perth was an interesting decision after Fortress at Gabba. But I'm wondering if they think perhaps get England, they're not doing a lot apart from net bowling or what have you, because the ball does get quicker, it gets to you, seems to get there quicker, and the light's different, and you've got the Fremantle dock. So there's all kinds of things that go into the melting pot.
And by the way, before we finish, Ian Botham is having his birthday out there. How old is he going to be?
Ooh, 72.
Oh, 65.
It's going to be his 70th. It's going to be a big...
He's a total legend. For younger viewers, look him up on YouTube because he's an absolute hero.
It's going to be one party and a half, though, if Ian Botham
Certainly
is having his 70th.
Quoty, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Still to come, the Prevent Counter-Terrorism scheme has been deemed unfit for purpose and is no longer keeping the country safe.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about that in the papers with Anna Firth and David Wooding. That's next, after your European weather.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
A lot of fine weather at the moment across the Med, but whilst it's warm in Spain, there is some wet and windy weather moving through Madeira, approaching the Channel Islands and also affecting Portugal. Later, that's going to push through parts of Spain, but ahead of it we've got a southerly airflow and above average temperatures, a lot of sunshine through Italy into Greece as well. Keen breeze here, 1 or 2 showers, and you can see that unsettled weather affecting Tenerife on Thursday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m.
Only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Secretary is urging medical professionals to prescribe having a job as a form of treatment for anxiety and depression. West Streeting wants employment to be seen as being just as vital to health as diet and exercise. His comments come as the latest figures reveal there are more than 2.8 million people of working age who are economically inactive in the UK because of long-term sickness. Joining me now is a psychotherapist and broadcaster, Lucy Beresford. Lucy, good to see you. What do you make of this story? Prescribing going to work, basically?
In effect, that's what it's doing. And on the whole, I'm fully behind it because work is a very powerful mood lifter. It works on 3 levels, really. It gives you a sense of structure. It gives you somewhere that you have to go and to be there at certain times, maybe fulfill certain deadlines. It also gives you a sense of purpose. And we know from a lot of studies that when you have mental illness, and particularly when you have depression or anxiety, that sense of helplessness, worthlessness can be very debilitating, and it can send you on a downward spiral, make it very hard for you to get well. And yet if you have work, if you have a sense of purpose, if you have a mission, if you like, if you have goals, if you get improvements in your work and you get promoted, all of those things can be very beneficial. And the third thing, of course, is that in the workplace, we form human connections. We are very relational creatures, human beings. We come into this world physically joined to another person, and that is our template. We are longing for connection.
GB News, the People's Channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back. We're going through the papers, as you can hear, with Anna Firth and David Wooding. They're keeping us company in the studio. David, let's start with you, shall we? This is the front page of the Telegraph this morning. The Prevent scheme is a failure.
Yes, well, there's been a three-year independent commission, a three-year independent inquiry into the Prevent scheme, which you may remember is to nip in the bud any radicalisation of young people, disaffected young people. And it's found out that 90% of those who are looked at are turned away because they have no obvious motives for carrying out any attacks, and of course some of these do go on to offend. I mean, the classic one is Axel Rudder Cubana, the Southport murderer, who was visited, I think, 3 times. And there are thousands and thousands of people. I think about 9,000 people a year are looked at by Prevent, and most of them are leads to no action. So obviously it needs an overhaul of some kind.
And Anna, this has affected you, hasn't it?
Well, absolutely. This is really close to my heart, and to obviously the Amos, the Amos family, who've been campaigning, you know, consistently.
Sir David Amos.
Yeah, Sir David Amos's family. Sir David Amos was stabbed, as we know, by somebody who was on the Prevent scheme. That amounted. He was on the Prevent scheme for 2 years. He was sent on to. He was listed as one of the more severe, worrying cases, and in 2 years it amounted to 1 interview over a coffee in McDonald's, at which he said, "I'm not a terrorist," and therefore they said fine and dismissed him from the scheme. It should be defunded. It is completely not fit for purpose, and the big failing of it is that they don't circle back. So it was the school who'd done the right thing in the case of this killer. I never give his name. I'm not going to give him that satisfaction. The school had identified him, as is so often the case. They'd seen the radicalisation at school. He'd been carrying knives and reported, but they don't circle back. So he goes to McDonald's and says, "Oh, I'm not a terrorist." They don't go back to the school and say, "Oh, he says he's not a terrorist, so has it all gone away?" Yeah. If they'd done that, they would know that it hadn't gone away, and who knows, the deadly things that happened may not have happened.
Well, that will run that story, a 3-year review into what we knew wasn't working anyway.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Anna, let's stay with you, shall we? Something entirely different in the Times today. Facial recognition trial at UK airport is found to have cut queues.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is in one sense, this is a good news story. I'm all for cutting queues, and if we can use modern technology to make our lives easier, then I'm all for it. And of course, I've been through, you know, facial recognition at the airport. I'm sure we all have, but I can't completely say that it has cut the queues. I very often arrive there, and it's that moment, isn't it? Yeah. You've got to pick the right queue, because if someone doesn't know how to use it, you're standing there while they go off and get somebody. So I think with the right education, I mean, it is the way forward, and good news, and it needs to be rolled out to all the airports.
And yet, Dave, of course, with Brexit, we've been told to expect more queues, haven't we, at the borders?
Yes.
Because I think the French and others are looking at more biometric data.
Yeah, well, I noticed that these facial recognition system will only work for UK passport holders. I'm quite pleased about that, really, because it means we'll see queues of EU passport holders as we all sail through with our facial recognition. So it's a little bit of revenge, really, for what the punishment beating being handed out to us for leaving the EU.
I mean, e-gates are great when they work, but I have been victim to them when they've all gone down. And then you all have to be moved into a queue with a person at the end. Oh my goodness!
Or if you're behind somebody who doesn't know how to use the automatic passport.
Hat on and they've got no idea.
But they are getting faster and faster because we are getting
used to it, aren't they?
And the data that they're getting is that much more accurate and should ultimately make our borders more secure.
What AI is, it can be a good thing. I mean, it's often
a good thing, isn't it?
Attacked as being negative. Now, Ellie, close to home for you.
Yes, I love Jane Austen's village in Hampshire. It's very close to where I went to university. I'm an English literature student, or I was, so I used to go there all the time. But apparently it's under threat, Anna.
Yes, I mean, there is a planning application for hundreds of acres of the beautiful surrounding countryside around that lovely Hampshire village of Corton. And of course, the villagers, quite rightly, are up in arms. And I do think that our green belt, is under threat from this Labour government, without a shadow of doubt. The housing targets that they are imposing are way too high. And, this is just another example of prime English countryside, and it must be defended.
But where will our children live, though? I mean, you can say that, can't you? But that's a problem by not allowing building even near her house, Jane Austen's house.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing that needs to happen is that the millions of planning permissions that have been given need to be built out. To stop the developers land banking and not building the houses.
I've been to this. I've visited this house in Chorlton, where it's a great bit of history. But what is more important, when you've visited the house, you then go for a stroll around the area and see the hillsides which have influenced us. So that's going to be lost for these houses.
Oh, the beauty of it all, isn't it? David, Anna, thank you very much indeed. We'll have more time with you later in 45 minutes' time. Let's get a check on the weather now with Aidan.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Yet more windy and wet weather is expected today, particularly across western parts of the UK. The hills of southwest England, South Wales, southwest Scotland and Northern Ireland seeing quite a soaking as spells of rain push north and east across the UK. Briefly drier across the southern third, although staying cloudy and in some places with further spots of rain. But the strong wind coming in from the southwest will send another band of persistent wet weather into South Wales and the southwest of England by the afternoon. Driest and clearest in the far north of Scotland, 10 degrees here, elsewhere mid-teens. So despite the wet and windy weather, it is actually very mild for the time of year. Now, across northern Scotland, well, that's the place to be because we're going to end the day with clear spells, 1 or 2 showers, but otherwise mostly dry weather. As this spell of rain moves through central Scotland, another bout of wet weather pushing through Northern Ireland into the southwest of Scotland, reaching the central belt around 6 or 7 p.m. And then this wet weather moving through western England and Wales, a very soggy end to the day for Cardiff, for Exeter, and then that sweeps through the Midlands into eastern England through the evening, although fizzling out, so not much rain really for the southeast. A very mild night for the vast majority with that strong wind and areas of cloud in the south. Temperatures staying up at 14 or 15 Celsius, single figures further north, and having seen a dry day in northern Scotland on Tuesday, we're going to see spells of rain through Wednesday and a strong wind developing, but this wind is coming from the north, so it's going to turn colder through the day across Shetland and then eventually the north of the mainland as well as Orkney. Some of that rain turning to snow over the tops of the mountains, for example. A clear slot in the middle across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, northern England, but further wet weather in the south where it's going to be very mild once again.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making us the fastest growing news website in the UK. We're truly humbled, and we couldn't have done it without you.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M8 eastbound is partially blocked due to an incident between Junction 5 and Junction 4A. Motorists should approach with caution and expect longer travel times. In Hertfordshire, the M25 clockwise between junction 23 and 24 has a road incident with one lane closed. On the A303 eastbound in Hampshire, a broken down vehicle between the A3093 and the A34 has led to a lane closure. Be prepared for travel delays. And on the trains, the Elizabeth line is experiencing disruptions between Reading, Heathrow Terminal 5 and London Paddington. And there are issues affecting the Gatwick Express between East Croydon and Purley. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
We could be delivering the perfect Christmas to you this year. There's £30,000 in tax-free cash to make 2026 the best year yet. A further £10,000 cash to spend on gifts for all the family. There's £1,000 to spend in your favourite supermarket. And a festively themed GB News goodie bag. And we'll get it all to you in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
A really important thing about GB News. It's brought something completely different to the landscape.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, the reality is that most British journalists are afraid. That's not GB News.
Journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
We're here to talk about things in a way that have never been broadcast on British airways before.
Do not miss a moment on GB News.
The #1 news channel in the country.
Good morning. President Trump threatens to sue the BBC for $1 billion.
That's right. The US president is demanding the BBC makes a full and fair retraction over what he's calling false, defamatory, disparaging, misleading and inflammatory statements.
Well, the BBC chairman, Samir Shah, has issued a public apology after the broadcaster admitting to editing a Donald Trump speech in a way that could be seen as misleading.
But is this enough to repair the reputation of our national broadcaster? And has it ruined relations with the White House?
Well, the BBC says it will respond directly to Donald Trump's demands in due course as Tim Davy, the outgoing boss, prepares to face BBC staffers today.
Well, this all comes as the Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, is understood to be planning to launch her consultation on the BBC's Royal Charter before Christmas. There's going to be considerations of wholesale reform of the licence fee.
Meanwhile, breaking this hour, the rate of the UK unemployment has risen to 5% from 4.8% in the 3 months to September. That's according to the Office for National Statistics.
Rachel Reeves hints at scrapping the 2-child benefit cap, with the budget, of course, just weeks away.
And the Prevent Counter-Terrorism scheme is no longer keeping the country safe, a review has found, which calls for a radical overhaul of the system.
Former heads of the British Army have accused the Prime Minister of allowing human rights law to undermine the effectiveness of Britain's armed forces.
And the nation will fall silent this morning to mark Armistice Day, of course, honouring the moment peace was declared at the end of the First World War in 1918 on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month with a 2-minute silence. And of course, GB News is with you across the UK, marking those commemorations wherever they're taking place.
At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Here in Staffordshire at the National Memorial Arboretum, the Armistice Day service will be attended by Her Royal Highness the Princess of Wales.
And in sport this morning, the International Olympic Committee is set to announce a ban on transgender women in competition. Middlesbrough manager Rob Edwards probably won't be Middlesbrough manager for much longer. He's about to be announced as the new boss of Wolverhampton Wanderers, and we think it probably is. How about this for the snowiest cup final ever seen in Canada?
Yet more rain on the way through today and the next few days. Not everywhere will be soaking, though. Find out the full details in the forecast.
Good morning, it's just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Ellie Costello.
And I'm Christopher Hope, and this is GB News Breakfast. OK, straight into the news. So, Shadow Secretary of State for Culture, Nigel Huddleston, joins us now. Nigel Huddleston, thank you for joining us on GB News Breakfast. You're, of course, you're watching what's happening here with the newspapers. And today, of course, we're seeing 9 former generals accuse the Prime Minister of allowing human rights to undermine the effectiveness of British armed forces. We're talking, of course, on Armistice Day. You're in Westminster, very near the Cenotaph. What is going on? Why are our heroes not being supported by the state?
Well, indeed, they've got a very legitimate concern, which I think we should all be concerned about. And of course, this is a consequence of the government's decision, effectively, to withdraw the legacy bill. You know, I think a lot of our veterans feel like that this government is not on their side, and they're really angry about this, and we're really angry about it as well. So they've got a perfectly legitimate concern. And on Armistice Day of all days, I think it's right to voice those concerns.
A reaction to the news that President Trump is threatening to sue our national broadcaster, the BBC, after they admitted to and apologised yesterday to editing a Donald Trump speech in a way that could be seen as misleading. The BBC have got until 5 p.m. on Friday to respond to this. How do you suggest they should respond?
Well, with a big apology and grovel, because they were wrong, and Donald Trump has a perfectly legitimate concern here. It could be perceived to be misleading. It transparently was. I mean, doctoring the video, but also the whole programme, there was issues. If you look at the number of people who were interviewed, it was 10 to 1, the people who opposed Donald Trump to those who supported him. And there wasn't a compensatory programme for Kamala Harris. So I think the president has some legitimate concerns.
But come off it,
Nigel. The problem is, who's going to...
I'm sorry to interrupt there, but you're saying that, I mean, the BBC is full of thousands of journalists doing their best to hold power to account. Are you saying they should grovel in the face of Donald Trump? That surely isn't right.
When they make an error and when they have an error of judgment, which, by the way, the BBC chair has now admitted, they need to admit that they got it seriously wrong. What they did was mislead the public and give the impression that Donald Trump said something that he transparently did not. That was not a mistake. That was a deliberate and conscious decision by a whole production team, by the editors, by the journalists. It was then decided to broadcast. Complaints were raised and nothing nothing was done. This is the problem, and this is why we say there is something systematically wrong at the BBC. But I would say as well in the context here, what I don't want to see is decent taxpayers, licence fee payers, suffer because of the stupid mistakes made by a bunch of lefty journalists who didn't like Donald Trump. You know, the British public should not suffer because of this. Therefore, the BBC must apologise wholeheartedly, sincerely about this programme, but also, I think we're seeing, about a whole bunch of other things as well.
What do you make of claims by some BBC presenters, including Nick Robinson on the Today programme yesterday, referring to political interference at the BBC and a hostile takeover of parts of the BBC? And he suggested that Sir Robbie Gibb, who is a BBC board member, a former Downing Street Director of Communications under Theresa May, should potentially be removed from the board. What do you make of that?
I think it shows the systematic cultural problem at the BBC. They really don't get it, do they? The problem with the BBC is the lack of diversity of political views and opinions. The fact that they're now trying to hound out Robbie Gibb, the one person who's openly conservative, speaks volumes about their inability to understand the strength of the problem here. I mean, the BBC tries to pursue diversity in every single area other than diversity of thought, and now they're going after Robbie Gibb. I mean, did these people have the same arguments when James Purnell, the former Labour DCMS Secretary of State, was made Director of Strategy at the BBC? No, of course they didn't. It speaks volumes about the fact they cannot recognise their own bias. That's why it's institutional. They don't even see it. They don't even recognise it. They don't even know it. And now they're hounding the person who raised concerns. That's exactly the problem here. But by the way, this is a problem with news and current affairs. I have to say, the BBC is a fantastic global brand and institution that does so many things so well. Okay. It is being let down because of its inability to be impartial. But the BBC does a lot of things good as well.
While we've got you now, Nigel Huddleston, your reaction to the increasing unemployment rate. Very, very sad news ahead of Christmas.
It is indeed, and of course it's not just stats. This is my constituents' lives that are being impacted here because they're losing their jobs. And let's be in no doubt here, this is a direct, immediate consequence of Rachel Reeves' bad decisions. When she increased taxes, when she increased national insurance last year, that made it more expensive to hire people. It increased the costs of jobs, and therefore there's less of them. That's a basic stat of economics, and therefore I'm worried about what may come in this budget. You know, they shouldn't have increased national insurance. The Employment Rights Bill is going to do more damage. This is an anti-business government, and it is destroying jobs up and down this country. It's what Labour always do. Unemployment always increases under Labour. They don't understand business. They don't get business. They don't support business. It's terrible because I say it's my constituents and other people, normal people across the country, paying the price for this Chancellor's incompetence.
A review has found that the Prevent counter-terror scheme is no longer keeping the country safe. What's your response to that review? Do you think that the Prevent scheme needs to be overhauled? Does it need to be scrapped?
Well, this is definitely something that I know my colleague Chris Philp is paying attention to, because we've been demanding for the implementation of the Shawcross review a while ago, and that's an important part here. In terms of any recommendations or suggestions, we'll be paying close attention to this because it's a really important issue. So I know Chris will have views on this, but we'll see what they come out with. It's probably good that they're doing a review, but we need to see what the outcomes are.
And just very finally, Nigel Huddleston, your reaction to the suggestion from the Chancellor that she might lift the two-child benefit cap. Of course, the Tories brought that in austerity to allow people with more than two children on benefits to keep receiving more benefits.
Yeah, well, I think that's a bad decision. So what the Chancellor's coming out, wanting to spend more of other people's money. Look, we brought that in. You mentioned austerity. There's another word for austerity. It's called living within your means. It's a core Conservative principle, and it's one that I would like to see this government try and adopt, but they can't. They just love spending more and more money. It's absolutely vital that people take responsibility for their own decisions, and that includes questioning whether they can afford children. And therefore, actually, I think this would be a bad decision by the Chancellor, and what we'll find is that people are going into work who make sensible decisions are then subsidising people who make alternative decisions. That's not right. Yet again, another example of how this government gets things mightily wrong.
OK, Nigel Huddleston, thank you very much for joining us this morning on Breakfast.
Thank you.
OK, now to our top story. And Donald Trump has threatened to sue the BBC for $1 billion over the editing of his speech in a Panorama documentary.
Well, his legal team is accusing the corporation of defaming the US president and has demanded a retraction, giving the broadcaster until Friday evening to respond.
Last night on The Late Show Live, GB News' very own Ben Leo had an exclusive interview with Donald Trump's lawyer, Alexandro Brito.
Mr. Brito, I have to ask, has he, of course, Caroline Levitt, the press secretary, yesterday said everybody should watch GB News. In your conversations with the president since he instructed you to pursue this case against the BBC, has he mentioned GB News at all?
He has, and I know he's fond of GB News, and I think he appreciates the treatment that he receives on GB News, and we hope that it will continue to be fair and accurate reporting.
Well, let's speak now to GB News national reporter Will Godley, who joins us now outside BBC Broadcasting House. And this is a major escalation in this scandal, isn't it, Will?
Yeah, Ellie, Chris, certainly is. No doubt, if this was an episode of The Traitors, the BBC would hope to murder this scandal. It's gotten so big, they would hope it could go away as quickly as possible, really. But this isn't a game, this is real life, and it's a scandal on the front page of almost every single newspaper again. And that is, of course, after that legal letter came in to the BBC from Donald Trump threatening to sue them for $1 billion if they don't meet Donald Trump's demands by the end of the day on Friday. Now, we've seen that letter here at GB News. I can tell you what his demands are. And firstly, they are to immediately issue a full and fair retraction of the documentary and any and all other false, defamatory, disparaging, misleading and inflammatory statements about President Trump. Secondly, they want the BBC to issue an immediate apology for those statements. And thirdly, to appropriately compensate President Trump. No word from the lawyers or indeed President Trump about what that figure could be, but recent settlements with media companies are in the range of around 12 to 13 million pounds. So the BBC could be looking at a figure around that much. Still a huge amount of money for the BBC to pay. What they will make of it, we'll wait and see. Today, the outgoing Director General, Tim Davy, will be addressing staff, no doubt trying to weather this storm.
Rodley, thank you very much for bringing that to us.
OK, we've got some views being sent in from you watching. Thank you for those. Anthony says, how on earth can an English flag in England be intimidating? These people need to grow up. Personally, I am sick to the back teeth of the sight of a Palestinian flag.
On the BBC, Bob says BBC total assets equate to $2.6 billion. They should use their assets to pay up Donald Trump. Donny says Hugh Edwards, Gary Lineker, Jeremy Bowen says it all about the BBC. It should be shut down. Fruit says, I won't be paying anything. I would cancel my licence. This is the final straw for me. And Martin says Trump should say, I don't want any money, just scrap the licence fee.
Okay. Now, the chairman of the BBC, Shamir Sarr, said this yesterday. Since the publication of Michael Prescott's memo, this issue has led to more than 500 complaints. These are now being dealt with in the normal way. It has prompted further reflection by the BBC.
Well, the conclusion of that deliberation is that we accept that the way the speech was edited did give the impression of a direct call for violent action. The BBC would like to apologise for that error of judgment.
OK, now, in other news, of course, today is Armistice Day. It marks the end of World War I in 1918 and all who have died in armed conflict since.
Well, the armistice was signed by German and Allied generals on the 11th of November 1918 to bring an end to over 4 years of fighting in which around 9 million military personnel were killed.
Across the country, that moment today is being marked with services and a 2-minute silence at 11 a.m.
And GB News national reporter Charlie Peters joins us now from Whitehall as preparations begin for this day of remembrance. Good morning to you, Charlie.
Good morning to you both in the studio. Yes, here at Whitehall, the preparations are mounting for the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, because Armistice Day, of course, being commemorated today, but also a set of other anniversaries also being noted today, because it's 100 years also since the founding of the Old Contemptibles Association. Now, for those of you who don't know, when the Great War started, the Kaiser Wilhelm referred to the British British Expeditionary Force as a contemptible army, and the British Expeditionary Force took on this term, claiming it as their own, and that association being marked with its founding today as well. Also at the Cenotaph in Whitehall, we will have the grandson of the Premier of Niue, which is an island nation just nearby New Zealand. They sent around 150 soldiers to the Great War at the outbreak of the war in 1914, and they will be commemorated and recognised formally here at the Cenotaph for the first time. Well, for more ahead of the Armistice proceedings, I'm joined now by Charles Garrett, a director from the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. Charles, thank you very much for joining us, and tell us why the Commission is so proud to be involved in this event today.
Well, today's an immensely important day, not just for us, but for the whole Commonwealth, in fact. I see two reasons why that's the case. We commemorate 1.7 million fallen from across the Commonwealth, from both world wars. And each of those individual casualties was in harm's way because of a decision taken by government. So the state has an absolute solemn obligation to commemorate them, to honour what they did. The second reason I see is that it's a moment, today especially, Remembrance Day, when we can all think about what those people died for. They died fighting to protect our democracy, our rule of law, our freedoms and so on. And it gives us a moment just to sit back and think about why that is and how important it is.
It's remarkable, isn't it? You go into cemeteries all across Europe and indeed across the country here as well, and you'll find that there is always one grave at least that is beautifully built and maintained, and that's one from the War Graves Commission.
Well, we have what we call scattered graves across the United Kingdom and across a number of other countries, and in fact we have cemeteries and scattered graves in 153 countries around the world. And our core purpose is to ensure that those graves and the buildings around them are properly maintained in perpetuity, so that their loss can be honoured and commemorated. So we do our very best to do that.
Charles Garrett from the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, thank you very much. So gearing up for that commemorative moment later here on Whitehall. Back to you in the studio.
Charlie, thank you very much for bringing that to us.
Now, the GB News national reporter Jack Carson joined us now from National Memorial Arboretum, where a service will be held later this morning. Jack.
Yeah, good morning to you both. Well, Her Royal Highness the Princess of Wales will be here for the Armistice Day service here at the National Memorial Arboretum. Of course, the iconic Armed Forces Memorial here hosts more than 16,000 names of those who have lost their lives after the end of the Second World War. Of course, today has been so poignant, this year has been so poignant with all of the anniversaries marking the end of the Second World War. But of course, that Armed Forces Memorial, known for listing all of those who have died on active service in training incidents or in incidents related to terrorism since the end of the Second World War. So it's a really poignant place to have the Armistice Day service today. But I'm delighted to say that joining us now here at the National Memorial Arboretum this morning is R.G. Manuel Pillai. Thank you so much. Who's the poet in residence here. Now, you have written a special sonnet in collaboration with Her Royal Highness the Princess of Wales to be read today. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was an amazing process with the National Memorial Arboretum, me and also the Princess coming together to create this piece that hopefully captures a lot of the feelings of not just the Princess, but me and the Arboretum too.
So how do you get your inspiration to start with that blank page and then end up with the finished product? How does the process work for you?
Being in poet in residence here in the National Memorial Arboretum, I've met loads of veterans, families of veterans. I've seen people connecting in ways that really has moved me, and it's there that the stories always start. With poems, we're not interested necessarily in statistics, we're more interested in the real life anecdotes, the stories, the connections, the relationships, because that's what really matters.
Okay, well, RG, I think, can you give us a couple of lines from the poem just to give our viewers a sense of what's going to come later?
When you speak of our country, do not speak of war. Speak of the nurse who held a hand like her own brother's, or the lieutenant who held a soldier like his own son.
R.G. Manuel Pillai, thank you so much. Poet in resident here at the National Memorial Arboretum. We'll be performing that poem in full, of course, as Her Royal Highness the Princess of Wales attends the Armistice Day service here at the Arboretum.
I'm sure it'll be incredibly moving. Thank you very much, Jack, for bringing that to us. And if you are heading to the National Memorial Arboretum, or perhaps you're heading down to Whitehall to the Cenotaph, or to your own Armistice Day commemorations throughout the country, here's your weather picture with Aidan.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Yet more windy and wet weather is expected today, particularly across western parts of the UK. The hills of southwest England, South Wales, southwest Scotland and Northern Ireland seeing quite a soaking as spells of rain push north and east across the UK. Briefly drier across the southern third, although staying cloudy and in some places with further spots of rain. But the strong wind coming in from the southwest will send another band of persistent wet weather into South Wales and the southwest of England by the afternoon. Driest and clearest in the far north of Scotland, 10 degrees here, elsewhere mid-teens. So despite the wet and windy weather, it is actually very mild for the time of year. Now, across northern Scotland, well, that's the place to be because we're going to end the day with clear spells, 1 or 2 showers, but otherwise mostly dry weather. As this spell of rain moves through central Scotland, another bout of wet weather pushing through Northern Ireland into the southwest of Scotland, reaching the central belt around 6 or 7 p.m. And then this wet weather moving through western England and Wales, a very soggy end of the day for Cardiff, for Exeter, and then that sweeps through the Midlands into eastern England through the evening, although fizzling out, so not much rain really for the southeast. A very mild night for the vast majority with that strong wind and areas of cloud in the south. Temperatures staying up at 14 or 15 Celsius, single figures further north, and having seen a dry day in northern Scotland on Tuesday, we're going to see spells of rain through Wednesday and a strong wind developing, but this wind is coming from the north, so it's going to turn colder through the day across Shetland and then eventually the north of the mainland as well as Orkney. Some of that rain turning to snow over the tops of the mountains, for example. A clear slot in the middle across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, northern England, but further wet weather in the south where it's going to be very mild once again.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
And now it's time for the great British giveaway on GB News. If you're starting to feel festive, and I do after the 11th of November every year.
Is that when Christmas starts for you after Armistice Day?
That's when it starts for me, and carols are allowed.
Oh.
But not in our kitchen. Mrs. Hay won't allow it till the 1st of December.
But yeah, that's the traditional.
But why don't you try and think about Christmas more this year? And here's a chance to win £40,000 in cash to spend on the Christmas of your dreams, including £1,000 on lunch alone from your favourite supermarket, probably an upmarket one.
Yes.
And a GB News festive goodie bag. Here's all the details you need for your chance to win.
You could win your entire Christmas on us this year, all magically delivered to you in time for the big day. There's cash, £30,000 in tax-free cash to make your new year go with a bang. There's also a further £10,000 to spend on all the gifts, the tree, the trimmings, everything you might need for a fantastic festive day. We've also got Christmas lunch for you, with £1,000 in vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a festive GB News goodie bag, so there's something for everyone under the tree. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB 17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, do stay with us. Still to come, of course, it is Armistice Day today, isn't it? And the commemorations taking place across the country. We have a very special one for you in the studio because we're going to be joined by classical singer Carly Powley, who's going to sing Requiem for a Soldier live for us in the studio. That's next.
This is GB News Breakfast with Ellie Costello and me, Christopher Hope.
West
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
But I saw in that incredible ancient ceremony how it and our traditions held the country together. It wasn't just the proclamation at St James's Palace, it was the wave of them that then spread around the country. It involved all of us, it reminded us who we were, and it galvanised support for the new king. And I thought, this is just incredible. And then I started to think about, actually, all of these things have been arrived at, and our amazing uncodified constitution, which is written down, but in about 400 different places, it's all held together by these rituals and these ceremonies and customs. And even our law is devised that way. And actually, the conclusion I came to is that these things are really important. I think we don't really recognise, we like them, but we don't really recognise how fundamental they are to our reliability, our dependability as a nation, and our ability to cope with change. They celebrate service and duty. They celebrate sacrifice. They are based around, I would say, the values of the nation. And most of them, in fact, I think all of them, are funded not by the public sector. It's not local authority grants doing this, it's local traders. In terms of the local traditions and customs, the madder the better, as far as they're concerned. And I think this points to another element, that the absurd and our sense of humour. It's the only thing we take really seriously in this country. So I think that is fine. But I think we do adapt these traditions. They do modernise.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast. Now, of course, today marks Armistice Day, commemorating the end of World War I in 1918 and all who have died in armed conflict since.
Across the country, the day is being marked with services and a 2-minute silence at 11 a.m.
Well, this morning on GB News Breakfast, we're going to be joined by classical singer Carly Powley, who joins us in a little bit to sing us a very special song, Requiem for a Soldier, which is based on the theme from Band of Brothers. But just before she performs to us, Carly joins us in the studio now. Really good to see you, Carly. And when you sing on Armistice Day, it must be so moving for you because, of course, you have a family connection, don't you, to veterans and those who have served this country?
Yes, my first cousin, Scott, he served in the Royal Engineers for 17 years. So he served in Bosnia, Afghanistan, Iraq.
Wow.
You know, I remember as a kid going to his passing out ceremony. So incredibly proud of him. I've had the privilege of performing at the National Arboretum on 3 occasions. And I can honestly say, you know, singing takes you to all sorts of special places, but there's nothing quite as moving and poignant as performing to that, knowing that you've got Second World War veterans there in the audience, as well as the armed forces today. I became great friends with an amazing gentleman who obviously loved music, Simon Mayo, and he served in the Second World War in the Navy. And he actually asked me afterwards, because we've got the same musical connection, he was in the choir, he asked if I'd join him for his 100th birthday celebration. So that was humbling and an immense privilege to be able to go and celebrate his legacy.
And your singing allows people to reflect on their service, and all families across the country have this connection. Extraordinarily, my grandfather was involved in the First World War.
Wow.
In the First World War as a dispatch rider. Now that's unusual, but because he had children late, I think. But it's amazing. We all have connections, don't we?
Yeah, and it's amazing when you get to hear those experiences firsthand, because, you know, it's so important that we never do forget and we commemorate each year.
Absolutely. So tell us about the song that you're going to be singing for us this morning.
It's a gorgeous song called Requiem to a Soldier. And as you mentioned before, it's actually the theme from Band of Brothers. So a poignant choice, I think, for, you know, this significant day.
Absolutely. Well, Carly, if you'd just like to go get set up there for our performance, and we were hearing it in the break, weren't we? And it's just so stunning beautiful. And moving.
A moment of real reflection, I think, on a very poignant day for so many.
Yes, absolutely. At 11 o'clock, of course, the country will fall silent, paying tribute to those who paid the ultimate sacrifice for the freedoms that we all so enjoy today. So thank you, Carly, for bringing this to us. This is Carly Powley, the classical singer, with her song, this song, The Requiem for a Soldier.
Wow. That was amazing. That was Carly Powley there, singing live for us at GB News. And you can catch Carly this Christmas in Bring's Christmas Home show in Nottingham with special guests there, John Anderson and others, on the 11th of December. So buy your tickets there.
Yeah, I've got goosebumps now. That was absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Carly, for bringing that.
Thank you very much.
Let us know what you make of that. I'm sure you're really moved at home as well. gbnews.com/you'll-say. Now, if you are heading down to Whitehall to the Cenotaph or to the National Memorial Arboretum today, here is your traffic and travel picture.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The A8 westbound at Port Glasgow is restricted due to a broken-down vehicle. Delays on the M4 eastbound at J33 Capel-Lanil turn off-slip. In Leeds, congestion affects the M62 eastbound between junction 29 and 30, with a 20-minute hold-up expected. A serious incident on the M66 southbound at junction 2 has closed lanes, causing significant delays. The A46 southbound at the junction with the A4177 in Warwickshire is closed due to an incident with an hour-long delay. And on the trains, the Elizabeth Line and Gatwick Express are experiencing disruptions. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
I can't believe about your grandfather.
Yes, I was reading his letters he sent back from the front line with my mum last week in 1916,
Really?
and he was a dispatch rider behind the lines, and he couldn't say where they were. He was all, you know, I'm okay, Mum, and hope you got the food parcel, or hope I received it, and hope you got my letters back. In 1916, and it shows how our generations reached back. He was born in, I think, in 1878. We worked out, or 1888. He died in the 60s. I never knew him, but he had my dad quite late in his life. So it means that there's 2 generations takes me back to someone who fought or served in the First World War.
Yeah, incredibly brave.
And there's
ordinary men and the service they did for this country.
And just do, if you can, tell us your stories. If you have any amazing relations. I mean, there are people who I know who've written to me when I was at the Telegraph whose family relations served in the Boer War.
Wow.
I mean, because of the way generations stretch over many years.
And of course, we remember all veterans today. Across all wars and conflicts. So do let us know, get in touch with your family connections to this day, gbnews.com/you'll-say.
Now, still to come, the Children's Commissioner is warning that hundreds of children are left in a waiting room limbo each year. This is GB News Breakfast with Ellie Costello and me, Christopher Hope.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/you'll-say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/you'll-say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Lots of you getting in touch, reacting to Carly Powley, the classical singer who just joined us in the studio. Lorraine saying, wow, this Requiem is so beautiful. And Angela says, I absolutely love the tune from Band of Brothers. It always brings a tear to my eye. We're joined now by Anna Firth and David Wooding, who are going through the papers with us. But just before we do that, Anna, what was your reaction to that beautiful
Gosh, it moves you to tears, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it was stunning.
I mean, the power of her voice. I was talking to her outside and saying, have you always had a voice like this? And she's so modest. She said, do you know, it's the only thing I can do? Well, if
No,
that
she
was...
doesn't. You can do it well. She's been singing since she was 7.
I know.
It's amazing.
Dave, you're a big classical music fan, aren't you?
Yes.
I mean, that was something else.
Oh, yes, it's great. I mean, it's always great when you hear it live. I mean, I've got a hi-fi system at home, but there's nothing like when you go to the theatre or the opera house and hear live singers without microphones and the power of the voice. I mean, listening to Carly doing the rehearsing out there, I mean, and you're close by in a small room, you hear just how powerful the voice is.
It blows you away, doesn't it?
Yes.
Anna, let's have a look, shall we, at this story today, ending animal testing.
Yeah, so
we're getting closer.
So this is a really good news story, Ellie, and it's something which, as you know, I and Eamonn have been campaigning on for many years. I'll declare my interest. I'm a trustee of a brilliant charity called Animal Free Research UK, always wearing my Herbie's Law badge. So this is a good day for animals and for animal welfare. The government has finally published a strategy in which it is committing to phasing out animal testing. But I would say that at the moment all we have are words. And, of course, a strategy without a clear timeline that the government is going to commit to is simply a strategy. It is not actual action. So this is really good news. But what I would still say is that we need Herbie's Law, which is a private member's bill which would put in place a 10-year phased-out timeline. So we need legislative underpinning to these warm words, but just to get you to some figures, it is unbelievable that we are still experimenting on
Do we need to make drugs for people to get better from Alzheimer's and other things? But what's replacing that?
Right, so the point about this, Chris, is that actually now 92% of tests that are done on animals, actually that does not translate into benefit for humans. So actually this is a failing model. New technologies, things like organ on a chip, where you have human cells on a chip, are far more effective. We can't do it overnight. But what we do need now is to underpin this with a bill, with Herbie's Law, and let's make this a thing of the past.
Dave Wooding.
Yeah, well, I mean, with the development in science and AI makes it less and less necessary these days for testing animals.
Still to come, we'll be hearing from the Children's Commissioner in a moment. But first, if you want some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of our top European destinations.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
A lot of fine weather at the moment across the Med, but whilst it's warm in Spain, there is some wet and windy weather moving through Madeira, approaching the Channel Islands and also affecting Portugal. Later, that's going to push through parts of Spain, but ahead of it we've got a southerly airflow and above average temperatures, a lot of sunshine through Italy into Greece as well. Keen breeze here, 1 or 2 showers, and you can see that unsettled weather affecting Tenerife on Thursday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand. Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight. On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The University of Sheffield has raised a few eyebrows after slapping death and violence triggers on, you know what's coming, the Bible. Christians and historians have dubbed the warnings as misguided and absurd and incompatible with discussions about morality. Joining me now is co-host of the Catholic Unscripted podcast, Mark Lambert. Mark, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us. Mark, I mean, I can see from the smile on your face already what you make of this story, but just articulate for me your feelings about it.
I think it's
typical of the culture that wants to sexualise our children and have drag queens and all this kind of stuff. And they want to censor the Bible, you know, they want to censor the book that built our civilization. It's just so vacuous in academic terms that this is the way that they want to move forward. And it's kind of redolent of that post-Enlightenment ideology that says that we need to tear down the things that have worked for hundreds of years. You know, we've stood on the shoulders of those who've gone before us, built on these principles. But in reality, it stifles critical thinking, any deep textual engagement. And instead of equipping students to grapple with complex narratives that reflect the human condition, like sin, sacrifice, salvation, these warnings promote intellectual avoidance, reducing profound theological events like Christ's crucifixion to just triggers for graphic bodily injury or sexual violence. This isn't education, Dawn. It's a superficial evasion that undermines the very purpose of academia.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
Oh, no, he didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast. Now, we are keeping our eyes out at New Broadcasting House in central London, where we are expecting to hear from Tim Davy, the current Director General of the BBC. He's going to be speaking to the press for the first time since he resigned from his role as Director General yesterday. Some reporting this morning saying it could be up to 9 months until a replacement is found for him as DG, so he will stay in the role, it's believed, until then. But we are expecting to hear from him in the next 10 to 15 minutes or so. We will bring that to you here on GB News.
And you can see our GB News microphone waiting there to pick up his words. Now, the Children's Commissioner is warning that hundreds of children are left in a waiting room limbo each year, being unnecessarily locked up in custody while awaiting trial for sentencing, not because they pose the greatest risk, but because systems designed to support them are failing.
Well, the Children's Commissioner for England, Dame Rachel de Souza, joins us now. Really good to see you this morning. So tell us a bit more about this, because people won't be aware, will they? But you're making a speech tonight saying that we've retreated from our moral duty about children in custody.
Absolutely. I'm doing the Longford lecture tonight and I'm talking about just this. Look, we have about 450 children in prison, and some of those are the worst killers, have done the most terrible crimes. But what people don't realise is 40% of those 450, 40% of those children are in there on remand. That's double what's in the adult estate. And those are kids who should be innocent till proven guilty. They are waiting to be sentenced. Now, if you look at the figures for 2023-24, 20% of them got their case dropped completely innocent. 60% of them did not get a custodial sentence, and yet they're serving 4 to 11 months of prison, been taken away from their education, from their homes, and put into prison. One boy said to me, I lay in my cell at night and look at the roof. I think I've done nothing, but I must be guilty because I'm in here. Why are they doing this to me? This is what I'm worried about. This is what needs to change.
Well, Dame Rachel de Souza, of course, there are victims of some of these individuals who do want these children. They are children, but they should face justice. I mean, there is that side to it, but of course, they are children at the end of the day as well. It's a difficult position to be in.
You'll get no argument from me about that. In fact, what worries me are that these children on remand, many of whom are going to be shown to be innocent or not get a custodial sentence, have been put in to these prison situations with the worst killers and the worst criminals, and what they tell me is they learn in there to be a criminal, which is a disgrace. So, you know, there are absolutely children who should be serving their time and we can talk about what that should look like. But I'm talking today about children who are, should be presumed, like adults are, innocent till proven guilty. And because local authorities have got nowhere to put them, they offer, we'll put them in a tent, we'll put them in a wherever. The judge says no, put them in prison. We would never do that to an adult. And it is terrible. 2/3 of these kids are kids who've been in and out of care. So they often don't have a stable home or anywhere to go. So they've been put into prison, like a waiting room. And prison is full, as you say, of these violent, terrible criminals. It's supposed to be absolutely terrifying. So their education is disrupted.
Of course.
This is some things that's solvable. It really is.
Well, how is it solvable? How do we fix this? Because there have been a number of young offender institutions that have been closed.
Yeah, and in fact, one has just been closed, and because there's so much going on in the world, we don't hear about it. One's just been closed, and hundreds of the staff arrested for alleged sexual abuse of the children.
Wow.
So they're not even safe in there. The chief inspector said one of the YOIs is Feltham is the most violent prison of all prisons, children and adults, in the country. So what do we do? Look, there's a really simple, and needs rocket boosting thing to do, which is specialist fostering. You've got two choices: specialist fostering, so that's foster carers trained to look after children who are bailed, and that's been done really, really effectively. Don't forget, most of these children are going to be proved to be innocent. If you really think a child, can't be out in the public, then secure children's homes. I go to secure children's homes. Some of our most complex criminal children go in them because they wouldn't be safe in the YOIs. They'd be attacked, and they are smaller, more therapeutic, and more aimed at getting children back into the world and into society. But really, these children are being proved guilty. We're saying they're guilty before being proved, and then being proved innocent. It's completely the wrong way
Rachel,
around.
it's a very, very important speech you're giving tonight. If I can draw you into a different area of your speciality, phones and how parents police them. It's reported that Prince William is in a tense standoff with his son George over whether he can have his own smartphone. Tense standoff as a father, I know what that means. But what's your advice to parents? When should parents give their children their first smartphone, given the pressures to have the best tech at school?
Well done, Prince William, for having the standoff. I brought in hundreds of 18 to 21-year-olds into the Department for Education and asked them this question. I said, you've grown up with mobile phones. What do you wish your parents had known? What would your advice be? And what will you do when your parents? They said, do not give the phones too young. There is absolutely no reason. Children should be out playing, out having a good time. Do not give internet-connected phones. Once they're older, if for some reason, over 15, 16, you give a phone, make sure they don't take them to bed at night, and make sure you're talking to them about what they're seeing. And, and children, those 18 to 21-year-olds said to me they'd seen terrible things, not to horrify you, but I've just done nationally representative surveys. 25% of 8-year-olds have seen violent porn and violence like beheading on their internet-connected phones already. 50% of 11-year-olds currently now are seeing that. If parents knew that, they would not be giving free reign of internet-connected phones to children. Now, if a child's diabetic,
Dame Rachel D'Souza, I'm afraid we've come to the end of our hour. Thank you very much for joining us this morning on Breakfast and being so generous with your time. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us.
Here's the weather.
Really important now. Time for update weather with Aidan McGibbon.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Yet more windy and wet weather is expected today, particularly across western parts of the UK. The hills of southwest England, South Wales, southwest Scotland and Northern Ireland seeing quite a soaking as spells of rain push north and east across the UK. Briefly drier across the southern third, although staying cloudy and in some places with further spots of rain. But the strong wind coming in from the southwest will send another band of persistent wet weather into South Wales and the southwest of England by the afternoon. Driest and clearest in the far north of Scotland, 10 degrees here, elsewhere mid-teens. So despite the wet and windy weather, it is actually very mild for the time of year. Now, across northern Scotland, well, that's the place to be because we're going to end the day with clear spells, 1 or 2 showers, but otherwise mostly dry weather. As this spell of rain moves through central Scotland, another bout of wet weather pushing through Northern Ireland into the southwest of Scotland, reaching the central belt around 6 or 7 p.m. And then this wet weather moving through western England and Wales, a very soggy end to the day for Cardiff, for Exeter, and then that sweeps through the Midlands into eastern England through the evening, although fizzling out, so not much rain really for the southeast. A very mild night for the vast majority with that strong wind and areas of cloud in the south. Temperatures staying up at 14 or 15 Celsius, single figures further north, and having seen a dry day in northern Scotland on Tuesday, we're going to see spells of rain through Wednesday and a strong wind developing, but this wind is coming from the north, so it's going to turn colder through the day across Shetland and then eventually the north of the mainland as well as Orkney. Some of that rain turning to snow over the tops of the mountains, for example. A clear slot in the middle across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, northern England, but further wet weather in the south where it's going to be very mild once again.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for helping us reach 8 million followers across social media. Thank you for making us a part of your daily life.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Motorists on the A8 westbound at Port Glasgow face restrictions due to a broken down vehicle. The A56 southbound in Lancashire is congested between the A681 and M66, causing delays. In Warwickshire, a collision on the A46 southbound has closed all lanes at the A4177, causing 1.5-hour delays expected to clear later. On the M25 clockwise between junctions 23 and 24 in Hertfordshire, one lane remains closed due to an earlier collision. And on the trains, disruptions affect the Elizabeth line between Reading, Heathrow Terminal 5 and London Paddington. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
You could win your entire Christmas on us this year, all magically delivered to you in time for the big day. There's cash, £30,000 in tax-free cash to make your new year go with a bang. There's also a further £10,000 to spend on all the gifts. We've also got Christmas lunch for you, with £1,000 in vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a festive GB News goodie bag, so there's something for everyone under the tree. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good morning. President Trump threatens to sue the BBC for $1 billion.
That's right. Donald Trump is demanding the BBC makes a full and fair retraction over what he's calling false, defamatory, disparaging, misleading and inflammatory statements.
Well, the BBC chairman, Samir Shah, has issued a public apology after the broadcaster admitted to editing a Donald Trump speech in a way that could be seen as misleading.
Looking at images from outside New Broadcasting House, we're expecting a statement from Tim Davy, the Director General. But is this enough to repair the reputation of our national broadcaster? And has it ruined relations with the White House?
Meanwhile, it comes as the Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, is understood to be planning to launch her consultation on the BBC's Royal Charter. She's looking to it before Christmas, with considerations of wholesale reform of the licence fee.
And the rate of UK unemployment has gone up just before Christmas to 5% from 4.8% in the 3 months to September, according to the ONS.
Rachel Reeves hints at scrapping the two-child benefit cap, with the budget, of course, just weeks away.
And the Prevent Counter-Terror scheme is no longer keeping the country safe, a report has found, which calls for a radical overhaul of the system.
Former heads of the British Army have accused the Prime Minister of allowing human rights law to undermine the effectiveness of Britain's armed forces.
And the nation will fall silent later today to mark Armistice Day, honouring the moment that peace was declared in 1918 at the end of the First World War, on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, with a 2-minute silence. And of course, GB News is with you across the UK where other commemorations are being held.
At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Here in Staffordshire, the National Memorial Arboretum, the Armistice Day service, we joined by Her Royal Highness, the Princess of Wales, at 11 o'clock.
And here at the Cenotaph in Whitehall, dignitaries and soldiers will gather to remember when the guns fell silent in 1918.
Yet more rain on the way through today and the next few days. Not everywhere will be soaking, though. Find out the full details in the forecast very soon.
Good morning. It's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Ellie Costello.
And I'm Christopher Hope, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Now, we do have a camera fixed there outside New Broadcasting House, because we are waiting to hear, aren't we, from Tim Davy, the current Director General of the BBC. He offered his resignation, didn't he, over this row over impartiality. This is the first time we're going to hear him speak in public since.
That's right. It's yet to speak. We saw him arriving quickly with a cup of coffee yesterday. And we'll hear, if you might say, the similar remarks from Deborah Turness, who said the BBC is not institutionally biased. Joining us in the studio is Catherine Forster. Catherine Forster, you're our political correspondent. So far on this story, politics has been silent, but Parliament is back today. I wonder whether MPs might demand a statement in the House of Commons. There'll be more pressure, won't there, on the PM to say something about this crisis. It's now threatening, maybe, the special relationship between the UK and the US.
Yes, an absolute nightmare for the BBC, this, now that Donald Trump is threatening to sue them for $1 billion. And, of course, they are our national broadcaster, funded by the licence fee, which nearly all of us pay, though increasingly people are refusing to do so, and politically exceedingly difficult for the government, because, as Donald Trump said the other day, how terrible this was, especially as many think that the UK is our #1 ally. It puts the Prime Minister in a very difficult situation, potentially, with Donald Trump. Lisa Nandy, the Culture Secretary, we are likely to hear from her, I think, in the Commons this afternoon, and already we know that the charter renewal for the BBC is coming up in just a couple of years. We're expecting Lisa Nandy to launch the consultation on that probably before Christmas. Some reports that she could be looking at some sort of possible subscription model along with some sort of scaled down licence fee. We simply don't know at this point. But obviously, the BBC has had its problems and has had its critics many, many times before, but they have never been in a situation where the most powerful man in the world, Donald Trump, is incredibly cross with them, threatening huge lawsuits if he doesn't get an apology that he feels sufficient by Friday. The lawsuit couldn't take place here because the time that it would have to be lodged by has been and gone, so Florida is the thinking. We know that he sued a number of US outlets already. So very, very difficult all round. And suggestions now that Tim Davy, who we know has said he is resigning, may have to remain in post now for several months. And at this point, to be honest, who would want these jobs? It seems like a really poisoned chalice.
Well, I think there's going to be big questions about the role of Director General as well. I mean, is it too big a role? It's something like 21,000 journalists would be beneath them. That's an awful lot of people to be in charge of. I mean, does it need to be split up between an editorial role and perhaps a commercial role? I mean, this perhaps needs to be looked at.
Well, possibly, because that role currently straddles both of those, doesn't it? And we hear of all these arguments going on within the BBC. Deborah Turnus apparently wanted to get an apology out last week and was stopped from doing that. And we've had people coming out staunchly defending the BBC. Deborah Turnus yesterday say there is no institutional bias. But other people, and people that worked for the BBC, I think Mark Urban being one of them, worked for the BBC for a long time, saying, look, there is a sort of bigger problem here. He was saying that they've got lots of sort of young, progressive, quite woke staff that have come in that are sort of activists in a way, whereas the older members of the BBC are still trying to stick, you know, quite rigidly to being impartial, and that there is a tension and a conflict there. And you can see with the issue on, you know, trans rights, women's rights, that is very, very difficult. And I think the BBC, yeah, it started, didn't it, about a week ago, this current row with the revelations of the doctoring of that Trump footage, putting together something he said at the beginning of the speech, which something he said an hour later. But then the revelations dripped out from the Telegraph last week about the pro-Hamas coverage, the LGBT favouring, and so on and so forth. And I don't think the BBC helped themselves late last week when Martine Croxall, the newsreader, who had dared to correct pregnant persons to pregnant women and rolled her eyes, was found to have been in breach of standards because it was said that she'd expressed a personal opinion by her facial expressions.
OK, well, Catherine, let's just have a look at what the BBC have said. The chairman of the BBC, Samir Shah, said this yesterday. Since the publication of Mr Prescott's memo, this issue has led to over 500 complaints. These are now being dealt with in the normal way. It has also prompted further reflection by the BBC.
The conclusion of that deliberation is that we should accept that the way the speech was edited did give the impression of a direct call for violent action. The BBC would like to apologise for that error of judgment.
But the problem is, with this statement, is it took a week to come, didn't it, Catherine? And this is what has been so heavily criticised by commentators in the papers in the last couple of days, is it's that paralysis that has been so damaging. I mean, if an apology had come out directly last Monday after these allegations were first put in the Telegraph newspaper, indeed, if it had been handled when the memo was first put to them by Michael Prescott over a year ago.
Discussed in January by the board.
Yes, exactly. It seems that they have been paralysed by indecision, and that has made things so much worse because, as you say, this report was discussed internally many months ago, and then when this story broke over a week ago, there were lots of internal conversations about what to do. Deborah Turnus, we hear, wanted to get an apology out quickly, but that was shot down, and there seems to have been so much internal argument. Meanwhile, day by day, new revelations, each one damaging, criticism mounting, and then, of course, at the weekend, Donald Trump coming out saying fake news, that this is absolutely terrible, and then yesterday threatening to sue. I think an apology sooner would have improved the situation, whereas now I think they're in the worst possible scenario.
Catherine, is there an issue here of learning from their mistakes? Gordon Rayner, who broke the story for The Telegraph and has driven it for the past week, he is saying in today's Telegraph that the tone of the letter from Shamit Shah yesterday appears to downplay the seriousness of the doctored Donald Trump speech. And we've got suggestions from supporters of the BBC, if that's what you call them, that there's a right-wing coup against it, a hostile takeover of parts of the BBC, according to the Radio 4 presenter Nick Robinson. I mean, by attacking the critics, they're not dealing with what the problem is.
Yes, and certainly the BBC does enjoy huge advantages, doesn't it? And that everybody has to pay the licence fee if they have a TV. So that gives them a huge pot of money, although they would say that has been actually cut and cut and cut dramatically recently. But yes, I think that sort of, oh, this is all a terrible plot, in some ways risks making things worse for them.
OK, Catherine Thorster, thank you very much. Good to see you this morning. Well, let's stay with the story, shall we? And we will keep one eye there on New Broadcasting House, and if we do see Tim Davy, the Director General, we will bring that to you here on GB News Breakfast. But in the meantime, let's speak to the government, shall we? And Alison McGovern, the local government minister, who joins us live now from Westminster. Very good morning to you, Ms McGovern.
Good morning.
And what's your reaction to the President of the United States threatening to sue our national broadcaster over a clip of him that was doctored by the BBC in this Panorama documentary?
Well, I think that I've looked at the issues here, and there does seem to be some problems with, you know, the edits that have happened here. But I think if there are editorial issues, the right thing for the BBC to do is to...
Also, everyone across the BBC doing their thing for the UK, and personally I'm here to lead and support them. The BBC's going to be thriving, and I support every one of the team. I'm very proud of them. Thank you very much, Eamonn. Great to see you. It's
a very brief statement there from Tim Davy, the outgoing Director General, saying that he supports everyone in the BBC, but not much more than that.
Yeah, and he's very proud of them. Alison McGovern, are you still with us?
I am, sorry. I think I heard you went to Tim Davy there.
Just very briefly, saying he's very proud of the staff at the BBC. What did you make of that very, very brief statement from him?
Well, I hope he is proud of the staff at the BBC, because I know that my constituents rely on and largely trust the BBC. It's one of our most trusted media organisations. And I would say, just as I was saying before a moment ago, if there actually have been editorial issues, the right thing is for the BBC to apply high journalistic standards and to get on and sort the problems out.
Yes.
I think that I'm sure they have lots of complaints policies. They should apply them properly and sort these problems out. And that's the way that we will maintain public trust. We all value the BBC. Let's sort any problems out and get on and have good quality journalism.
Do you think, though, there's a bias in the BBC, an institutional bias? I mean, some of the presenters on their radio shows are saying there's been a hostile takeover of parts of the BBC. They say there's a right-wing coup against it at the board level. Is this a bit ridiculous and maybe avoiding the issue, Alison McGovern?
Well, the first thing that I would say is that I'm sure lots of journalists at the BBC, or even yourselves at GB News or ITV or Channel 4, have all kinds of political opinions, and I'm sure they vote all kinds of different ways. As a politician, that is none of my business. My job is to do what I'm doing now and answer questions of you all. If there are questions of, you know, problematic edits or whatever, deal with the problems. I'm sure many people in media organisations like yourselves have experienced that. People should leave their political views at the door when they go into work as a journalism and ask the right questions and get to the truth. And that is what journalists in this country, as you know, do week in, week out. And I know that because my constituents really value the news that they watch on the telly.
Now, of course, it is Armistice Day today, and the country is going to be paying their respects at 11 o'clock this morning. Why then have we got 9 former heads of the British Army writing in the Times newspaper today, saying that our armed forces are being betrayed by human rights law? They say that the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has allowed human rights law to creep in and undermine the effectiveness of British armed forces.
Well, if former generals or other former members of the armed forces share opinions about government policy, there's nothing wrong with that. That's absolutely fine and normal. And I'm sure that John Healey, the Secretary of State, will take account of what they say. I think that my constituents are proud of members of our armed forces, especially today on Armistice Day, and proud also because they act, in support often of people's rights, and they behave in an upstanding way. So I think that we're all, today of all days, deeply proud of members of our armed forces, and we want to invest in them, particularly our veterans community, to make sure that people feel their service is really respected.
Absolutely. And Alison McGovern, you're local government minister. You're here with news of new powers to suspend councillors and mayors for serious misconduct. It's nothing to do here with Reform UK doing well at local council level. It's a non-partisan attack on issues here.
It's a long-standing issue. The Localism Act, back in 2011, if you remember those days, swept away the ability of councils to take steps where councillors had been charged or even convicted of really serious offences. And we've seen a number of occasions recently where this has happened, and councils basically lack the legislative teeth to be able to take steps. We're announcing today we've consulted on it. Over 2,000 people and organisations responded to our consultation, and they all said that we should do this, that we should bring back legislation to give councils the teeth to take steps if problems occur. You'll know that the vast majority of our 17,000 local councillors in this country are admirable public servants, and that's true of all parties, but they want there to be proper enforceable standards in councils, and that's what the government will do.
OK, Alison McGovern, thank you very much for joining us this morning on Breakfast.
Thank you.
Cheers now.
Time now for the Great British Giveaway, and if you're feeling festive, how about Christmas on us at GB News this year? That's £40,000 cash to spend on the Christmas of your dreams, including £1,000 on Christmas lunch alone from your favourite supermarket, and a GB News festive goodie bag. Here's all the details you need for your chance to win.
You could win your entire Christmas on us this year, all magically delivered to you in time for the big day. There's cash, £30,000 in tax-free cash to make your new year go with a bang. There's also a further £10,000 to spend on all the gifts, the tree, the trimmings, everything you might need for a fantastic festive day. We've also got Christmas lunch for you, with £1,000 in vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a festive GB News goodie bag, so there's something for everyone under the tree. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB 17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Still to come, we'll bring you that latest on the BBC. That's next. This is GB News with me, Christopher Hope, and of course the great Ellie Costello.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back to Breakfast. Now, just in the last few minutes, the outgoing BBC boss, Tim Davy, has praised his staff as he arrived at New Broadcasting House this morning. Let's take a listen.
Just want to say a couple of things. I'm here to lead and support the BBC. I'm very, very proud of our journalists in this building. They're doing work, I think, that's incredibly important. I want to thank every one of them. They're doing a wonderful job. Also, everyone across the BBC doing their thing for the UK. And personally, I'm here to lead and support them. The BBC's going to be thriving, and I support every one of the team. I'm very proud of them. Thank you very much, Joanne.
OK, that was the BBC Director General there. Of course, Tim Davy, the outgoing one. Now, GB News national reporter Will Godley joined us now from New Broadcasting House. Will.
Yeah, Chris, Ellie, making no reference there to this legal letter that Donald Trump has handed to the BBC, threatening to sue them for $1 billion. Tim Davy, the outgoing Director General, merely standing here, right where I'm standing right now, to issue his support for BBC journalists and colleagues who have been facing a whole manner of claims of systemic bias at the corporation. A very short statement as he got out of his car here, walked into the BBC New Broadcasting House after his statement. Then he's going to address every staff member in the BBC later this morning as well. I had a number of questions I wanted to ask this outgoing Director General as well. Namely, was he going to apologise to Donald Trump? No apology there to the US President. Of course, that's one of his 3 demands to stop him issuing this $1 billion legal battle with the BBC. He also wants them to retract these statements and financially compensate him. I was also going to ask whether Tim Davy feels any regret having led the BBC down this path where they're now open to these claims of systemic bias. A new YouGov poll out this morning says that 50% of people polled feel that there is a bias at the BBC. I didn't get to ask him that question. Potentially he might touch on that when he speaks to members of staff inside the building a little bit later on. But Tim Davy, for now, wanting to show his support to BBC staffers.
Now, Britain's newsroom is coming up at 9:30 a.m. and we've got Miriam Cates and the great Olivia Utley here to tell us all about it. What's on your show?
Bit of a politics takeover this morning.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm really excited because we're going to be speaking to Kath Lang, formerly of the BBC. She claims that she was forced out of the corporation in 2023 because of her gender-critical views. It's really, really astonishing. She says that young LGBT staff were gatekeepers, so they were essentially stopping any gender-critical stories going through. Really looking forward to speaking to her. Astonishing story.
Indeed, and we're also going to have, of course, the latest from the Armistice Day commemorations. We'll be broadcasting the 2-minute silence live at 11. That'll be with Charlie Peters and Sir Michael Ellis as well, commentating. So all that to come. We're very excited about a packed show. But, of course, first of all, we have the weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Yet more windy and wet weather is expected today, particularly across western parts of the UK. The hills of southwest England, South Wales, southwest Scotland and Northern Ireland seeing quite a soaking as spells of rain push north and east across the UK. Briefly drier across the southern third, although staying cloudy and in some places with further spots of rain. But the strong wind coming in from the southwest will send another band of persistent wet weather into South Wales and the southwest of England by the afternoon. Driest and clearest in the far north of Scotland, 10 degrees here, elsewhere mid-teens. So despite the wet and windy weather, it is actually very mild for the time of year. Now, across northern Scotland, well, that's the place to be because we're going to end the day with clear spells, 1 or 2 showers, but otherwise mostly dry weather. As this spell of rain moves through central Scotland, another bout of wet weather pushing through Northern Ireland into the southwest of Scotland, reaching the central belt around 6 or 7 p.m. And then this wet weather moving through western England and Wales, a very soggy end to the day for Cardiff, for Exeter, and then that sweeps through the Midlands into eastern England through the evening, although fizzling out, so not much rain really for the southeast. A very mild night for the vast majority with that strong wind and areas of cloud in the south. Temperatures staying up at 14 or 15 Celsius, single figures further north, and having seen a dry day in northern Scotland on Tuesday, we're going to see spells of rain through Wednesday and a strong wind developing, but this wind is coming from the north, so it's going to turn colder through the day across Shetland and then eventually the north of the